Chapter 1028 Generosity. Chapter 1028 Generosity. Sunrise Sword Emperor was a myth in the Green Fire world, a bloody one. Though he became famous later than Empyrean Patriarch, he was far more powerful than him. Most important of all, he was a capricious loner. He killed others to his liking without any scruples at all. Like Samsara Temple Master and Void Temple Master, Empyrean Patriarch admired their strength but did not fear them too much. After all, they were detached and had quite a lot of things to worry about. Thus, they would never kill him unless he crossed the bottom lines of the Green Fire world. But Sunrise Sword Emperor was different. If he destroyed the Rock Demon clan today and annoyed him, it was perfectly possible for him to kill him and leave him no chance to escape. It was Jian Wushuang who killed my son. If I exterminate this population in order to vent my anger but offend Sunrise Sword Emperor, that's definitely not a good thing for me. Empyrean Patriarch murmured and produced a result. Let's go. He waved his hand, turned around and left. The 10 protectors behind him were greatly surprised at this. They thought that Empyrean Patriarch would eliminate the Rock Demon clan, however. They followed Empyrean Patriarch and did not dare to ask more questions. Empyrean Patriarch, please forgive me for not seeing you out. God Hong and other experts finally sighed with relief after Empyrean Patriarch left. Then God Hong took out a token. Jian Wushuang, Empyrean Patriarch did cause me trouble and even planned to wipe out my clan personally. But as you told me, I took him to that valley and declared that we have friendly relations with Sunrise Sword Emperor but are unfamiliar with you. He then left directly. God Hong sent out such a message. Jian Wushuang, who still stayed in somewhere in this territory that was even not far from the Rock Demon clan, received this message. A smile crept over the corners of his mouth. It's exactly as I expected. Jian Wushuang laughed gently. He conjectured that given Empyrean Patriarch's character, there was a good chance that he would vent his anger on the Rock Demon clan. So when leaving there, he had a word with God Hong and told him to take Empyrean Patriarch there. This result lived up to his expectations. Though Empyrean Patriarch is intractable, he must fear Sunrise Sword Emperor. He is not so foolish to risk offending Sunrise Sword Emperor in order to eliminate the Rock Demon clan. Jian Wushuang murmured. That's owed to Sunrise Sword Emperor's deterrence. What if Empyrean Patriarch is not afraid of him? What should you do then? Gu King suddenly snorted. Don't think that I don't know you could have left this territory a few days ago, but you choose to stay here. Obviously, you are worried about the Rock Demon clan. If he really attacks that clan, you will immediately show up, right? Hearing this, Jian Wushuang smiled helplessly and did not say much. He did prepare to turn up to divert Empyrean Patriarch's attention if he really attacked the Rock Demon clan. Of course, he would only use his slaughter body and would not be so foolish to put his life in the hands of Empyrean Patriarch. Jian Wushuang, I won't stop you from doing so in the Green Fire world. But I must warn you that you mustn't incur unnecessary trouble and get involved in something that doesn't concern you when you are in the eternal chaotic world. Don't forget how my last master, King Luo Zhen, died. Gu King said solemnly. I know. Jian Wushuang nodded in agreement. Later, he looked up at the void in front of him. It's time to go to the Divine Monster territory. I have just created the 3rd sword principle, Scarlet Yang sword principle, but I haven't contrived any swordsmanship that matches it. Furthermore, there are also many shortcomings in the ruthlessness that I designed for the Coalescence sword principle. I need to study hard. Jian Wushuang finally set off. It was a long way from where he was now to the Divine Monster territory, and it would take him a dozen years even if he moved at top speed. Moreover, he would delve into his sword principles and swordsmanships on the trip. Thus, he would spend more time on the journey. He was not in a hurry because he had enough patience. During the stop-and-go journey, he made some progress in sword principles. And in the 3rd year that he left the Rock Demon clan, he received 2 messages in one day. They were from Dragon Wing Governor and Dao Master Dreamless. The contents of the 2 messages were almost the same. Jian Wushuang, Empyrean Patriarch went mad. He offered a reward of 20 chaos gems for capturing you on the entire Samsara continent. Whoever finds your trail and sends him the message will get 20 chaos gems. In addition, he deliberately stated that you are at the Eternal Realm but your battle strength reaches the peak of rank 3 Dao Master level. By the way, he told everyone that you are a warrior major in Sword Principle. Presently, all populations on the Samsara continent and some solitary experts went bananas. A lot of people began to track you. Jian Wushuang, you must be very careful. Apart from that, don't act rashly. Once you reveal your battle strength, others can recognize you as easy as pie. Dragon Wing Governor had a good relationship with Jian Wushuang. Moreover, Jian Wushuang saved him, and he appreciated that a lot. And Dao Master Dreamless was a friend of Jian Wushuang. As soon as they knew this, they immediately informed Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang was dumbfounded after receiving the news. Offer a reward of 20 chaos gems for capturing me? He looked shocked and could not help but exclaim, how generous he is. That was not exaggerating. Everyone knew that a chaos gem was almost worth the fortune of a rank 3 Dao Master. A peak rank 3 Dao Master possessed 4 to 5 chaos gems at most. However, Empyrean Patriarch took out 20 chaos gems at a time. Furthermore, he did not mean to kill Jian Wushuang with the 20 chaos gems. Whoever informed him Jian Wushuang's trace could obtain them. Jian Wushuang believed once the news spread, there must be numerous experts on the Samsara continent searching for him crazily. Chapter 1029, Divine Monster Territory. Chapter 1029, Divine Monster Territory. As Jian Wushuang expected, the entire Samsara continent was startled by the news. Many populations, including some advanced and top populations, and countless solitary experts, were astounded by that. They could gain 20 chaos gems simply by conveying the trace of a person to Empyrean Patriarch. Even celestial masters were tempted by that. Crazy! Everyone on the entire Samsara continent went crazy. The scene shifted to a dim hall, the secluded headquarters of another powerful force on the Samsara continent. This force specialized in intelligence. A purple-clothed woman looked at the information she just attained with burning eyes. Issue my order immediately, do our utmost to find Jian Wushuang in the shortest possible time. 20 chaos gems. I'll obtain them as long as I track down an easily identified Eternal Realm expert. I must find him as soon as possible. Several black-robed men got together on the top floor of a towering pavilion. The value of 20 chaos gems are almost equal to all the treasures of a celestial master. Empyrean Patriarch is really generous. We've confirmed the news and our priority is to chase down Jian Wushuang quickly. One of the black-robed men said in a deep voice. People in our Divine Shadow Gang are adept at intelligence and only a few forces can rival us on the Samsara continent. It's time to give our capability full play. Jian Wushuang is a young man who is skilled at using the sword. Though he is at the Eternal Realm, he's quite powerful. We must find him before any other forces and populations can. Issue the Red Order and ask everyone to find him. In a top population, an emaciated and glum elder cackled from time to time when he glanced through the information in his hands. I rarely see Empyrean Patriarch fly into a rage. His reaction is reasonable. After all, his precious was killed by someone else. 20 chaos gems. This old man is quite generous in order to avenge his son's death. Ask our men to pay attention to the killer. 20 chaos gems are by no means a small amount of money. They can strengthen our force to some extent. All populations, some top forces, and many solitary experts on the Samsara continent sprang into action immediately. Everyone began to keep an eye on a man at the Eternal Realm who was good at sword principle and powerful than normal rank 3 Dao Masters. Jian Wushuang already speculated that but did not care too much. He still did what he ought to do and continually studied swordsmanships. In fact, he was not so much anxious as happy. That meant he was already famous on the entire Samsara continent. He made a name for himself without doing anything. And if his father was still on the Samsara continent and already a reincarnator above rank 7, he definitely would learn the news. In other words, his father would know that he already came here to find him. Therefore, they could gather together without much effort. Jian Wushuang was more careful when studying sword principles and swordsmanships on the trip. Moreover, he always restrained himself from acting rashly. There was a crowd of Eternal Realm experts who were skilled in sword principle on the Samsara continent. As long as he did not act rashly or expose the strength that far surpassed the supposed strength of Eternal Realm experts, no one would recognize him. But if he did, he would give away his identity. Time flied. It took Jian Wushuang whole 50 years to arrive at the Divine Monster territory, although no accident happened on the trip. Divine Monster territory. Jian Wushuang stood on the top of a mountain and overlooked the vast territory before him with a glimmer of light in his eyes. Unlike other places on the Samsara continent, the Divine Monster territory was more extensive. Most importantly, there existed far more experts. As a piece of the most prosperous and broad territory on the Samsara continent, it was the gathering place for experts and elites on the Samsara continent. The headquarters of the top forces on this continent was in the Divine Monster territory, the same for some top populations. Top populations. Jian Wushuang looked at the star map in his hand and murmured. He knew something about those populations. There were 4 top populations on the Samsara continent, namely the Ancient Monster clan, the Blood Azura clan, the Python clan, and the Blood Phoenix clan. They were deeply rooted on this continent and were formidable forces that possessed abundant resources. Even the Samsara Temple did not dare to act recklessly on matters concerning them. The reason they became top populations was that they possessed at least one celestial master. I have achieved great progress in sword principles and swordsmanships over the past 50 years. In addition, my ancient god power improved drastically because I have swallowed the Chaos Gold Bead. Jian Wushuang muttered. Since the Chaos Gold Bead was a very rare treasure, it would inevitably help him to improve his ancient god power very quickly. Over the years, my ancient god power has reached a new level, although it's far from reaching the 3-star peak. My strength has increased by leaps and bounds as well. Jian Wushuang clenched his fists. However, there are innumerable experts in the Divine Monster territory and I'm threatened by Empyrean Patriarch, so I still have to keep a low profile. First, I got to find Ding Mo, the elder that Tao Master Dreamless introduced to me. Jian Wushuang moved forward and entered the Divine Monster territory. It was dotted with numerous large cities and there existed one city named Emperor Heart City. And that was where Ding Mo was at. He not only lived in this city, but he was also the governor. He established a large-scale team of guards with a number of Tao Masters. Not to mention his identity in the Samsara Temple, his strength alone was equivalent to that of an advanced population. Chapter 1030 Hope. Chapter 1030 Hope. Great! Ding Mo is not only the elder of the Samsara Temple but also an overlord who governs such a large city. After strolling around the Emperor Heart City for a while and admiring the prosperity of the city in his heart, Jian Wushuang went directly to the governor mansion to visit Ding Mo. However, he was stopped by 2 guards in front of the mansion. I am introduced by the heaven-level law executor Tao Master Dreamless of the Samsara Temple. I asked to see Elder Ding Mo for something urgent. This is the token Tao Master Dreamless gave me. Please report my request to Elder Ding Mo. Jian Wushuang took out the token and handed it to one of the guards. The 2 guards looked at each other. They served as Ding Mo's guards a long time ago and naturally heard of Tao Master Dreamless. Meanwhile, they knew he had a good relationship with their governor. After knowing that this man was introduced by Tao Master Dreamless, they did not dare to neglect him and one of them immediately informed their governor of his arrival. A moment later, the guard who went into the mansion to send the message came out and said, "Your Excellency, our governor is waiting for you." Oh! Jian Wushuang's eyes lit up. Previously, Tao Master Dreamless told him that Ding Mo was odd and he would meet him but not necessarily immediately. Now, however, that did not seem to be the case. Following that guard, he walked into the governor mansion and soon came to a lofty hall. The hall was fairly grand. When he entered it, he saw a white-robed elder sitting at the highest place in the hall. Noticing his arrival, the white-robed elder opened his eyes and asked the guard to leave with a motion of his hand. At the same time, a layer of immaterial restriction rose around the hall and covered the entire hall within. Thus, there were only Jian Wushuang and the white-robed elder in this enormous hall. Jian Wushuang, Empyrean Patriarch, is tracking you crazily, and all the forces and populations on the Samsara continent are desperately finding your whereabouts in order to obtain 20 Chaos Gems. Normal people have already found a place to hide at this critical moment. However, you came here to find me publicly. Ding Emo said, wearing a meaningful smile. Jian Wushuang said with a smile, Dao Master Dreamless informed you of my identity, right? Dao Master Dreamless? He just told me that an Eternal Realm expert would visit me with his token but didn't mention your name. Nonetheless, he is arrogant and has no junior or disciple. How could he assist an ordinary Eternal Realm expert? Besides, I know he was on a mission to the Rock Demon clan not long ago. So long as I think about all this carefully, I can figure out your identity. Ding Emo said casually. Hearing his words, Jian Wushuang laughed helplessly. Right, I'm Jian Wushuang. I wonder whether Elder Ding Emo will send this message to Empyrean Patriarch for the 20 Chaos Gems? Ding Emo narrowed his eyes and overlooked Jian Wushuang, only to discover that he was calm and composed as before. He burst out laughing and said, No wonder Dao Master Dreamless thinks highly of you. Not to mention your talent and strength, your composure alone is rarely seen. You have my assurance. Although 20 Chaos Gems are something of great value and I am tempted by them too, I will never plot against the man that Dao Master Dreamless recommended to me for them. Many thanks. Jian Wushuang replied calmly. Take a seat. Ding Emo waved his hand and a chair appeared out of blue behind Jian Wushuang. Moreover, a long narrow table with wine and food on it emerged in front of Jian Wushuang as well. Jian Wushuang sat down and took a sip of wine. Dao Master Dreamless has messaged me your request. Although it is troublesome, it's not something difficult for me. Ding Emo chuckled and stared at Jian Wushuang. What's your relative's name? His name is Jian Nantian. He became the reincarnator in the ancient world 2,000 years ago. Jian Wushuang replied hurriedly. Fine. I'll check it for you immediately, but it will take about half a month. Ding Emo said. Half a month? Why will it take so long? Jian Wushuang frowned. Ding Emo glanced at Jian Wushuang and said, Dao Master Dreamless told me that you have asked a gold-clothed deacon to look up the information about your relative, right? Yes. Jian Wushuang nodded heavily. If I am right, did that gold-clothed deacon reply you soon? Ding Emo looked at Jian Wushuang smilingly. Yes, he provided me with the result in 3 days. Jian Wushuang replied. Ha, I knew it. Ding Emo laughed. Dao Master Dreamless told me the things happened between you and that gold-clothed deacon. The gold-clothed deacon went through the motions just in order to acquire your reward. Went through the motions? Jian Wushuang's face fell. Did Jin Yu never look it up for me? I didn't mean that. Ding Emo shook his head. He checked the information simply according to the name you gave him and replied you after he failed to find your relative's name. In fact, in the Samsara Temple, reincarnators usually take code names for the sake of convenience and concealment. Their code names are a must if anyone wants to look up their information. Their real names are ignored instead. So, if Jin Yu really wanted to aid you, he would look up the information according to your relative's origin and the time he has become a reincarnator. Only in this way can he receive an exact result. Oh! Jian Wushuang replied in shock. Jian Wushuang, since you are introduced by Dao Master Dreamless and I admire your talent and composure, I will wholeheartedly find out the whereabouts of your loved one for you. Therefore, it will take more time to do that. You should know that I've tried my best to shorten the time to half a month. Ding Emo said. Many thanks to Elder Ding Emo for doing all this for me. Jian Wushuang said sincerely. Nothing. If you have nothing to do during this period, just stay here temporarily. I'll inform you of the result half a month later. Ding Mo waved his hand and then left with a quick move. Jian Wushuang alone stood there and clenched his fists. What Ding Mo just said thrilled him. According to what Elder Ding Mo has said, Jin, you just checked the information of reincarnators perfunctorily. That means chances are that my father is a reincarnator below rank 7 and Jin, you just failed to find him. So my father is probably alive. Chapter 1031, It's Him. Chapter 1031, It's Him. Jian Wushuang lived in Ding Mo's mansion to wait for the result. 5 days passed in the twinkling of an eye. Jian Wushuang alone practiced his swordsmanship in an empty courtyard. Buzz! A splendid sword shadow pierced the void easily and disappeared from the void quickly, leaving an opening on space. It was so fast that it could not be caught by the naked eye. This sword movement proved to be the death shadow. Jian Wushuang stopped after performing this sword movement. This move is getting more and more powerful. Jian Wushuang murmured smilingly. He had been meditating swordsmanship and sword principle these years. As a result, his sword principle was greatly improved and the power of his swordsmanship elevated. Though his Aurora sword principle was still at the general level, it was not far from reaching the universe level. Moreover, his coalescence sword principle. He had been trying to integrate more sword principles into it. Currently, he had integrated 8 sword principles from the mysterious scroll into it and combined 8 different essences together. Until now, the coalescence sword principle barely became an earth-level sword principle. He had created 2 universe-level sword principles and a general-level sword principle presently. The more powerful the sword principle one created, the more beneficial it would be on elevating one's strength. It's easy to create universe-level sword principles, but it will be quite difficult to upgrade them to the creation level. I cannot imagine how long will it take to make them the most powerful sword principles. Jian Wushuang muttered. His goal was to make them the most powerful sword principles. Although he had created 3 sword principles, there was still a long way for him to go. Right at this moment, several figures suddenly flew upward from the mansion. They proved to be Ding Mo and several experts under his command. They appeared in the void above the mansion and looked into the distance, as if they were waiting for someone. Who is able to make Elder Ding Mo welcome him personally? Jian Wushuang was surprised. As the inner elder of the Samsara temple, Ding Mo enjoyed a high status and was absolutely qualified to be called an overlord on the Samsara continent. Thus, the people he was waiting for must be very eminent. In just a few seconds, 3 figures came here one after another. All of them exuded an overwhelming aura. Apparently, they were rank 3 Dao Masters. The 2 men standing beside a striking young man dressed in a golden robe were genuine experts at the peak of rank 3. The young man always wore a smile and appeared gentle and cultivated. The most striking part was his midbrow. There existed a vertical scarlet mark, a sword scar. Seeing them, Ding Mo and others experts greeted them immediately. In the courtyard, Jian Wushuang stared at that golden-robed man. He was very familiar with that man. His face had appeared in his mind more than once. After so many years, he finally saw him again. It's him! It's him! Jian Wushuang roared in his heart, and his eyes became sharper than ever at this moment. Jian Wushuang, do you know him? Gu Qing's surprised voice sounded in Jian Wushuang's heart. Yes, of course. Jian Wushuang's cold voice filled with tremendous killing intent. Jian Wushuang soon regained his composure and simultaneously looked away. That elegant man was talking with Ding Mo at this point, so he did not notice Jian Wushuang. Led by Ding Mo, he entered the meeting hall at the center of the governor mansion. Jian Wushuang instantly went to find an expert living in the governor mansion. Ding Mo possessed many powerful guards whose commanders were real Dao Masters. Some commanders lived in the governor mansion. Commander Su. Jian Wushuang came to a commander surnamed Su. Blood Mountain, my brother, what's up? Commander Su was quite polite to Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang used the alias Blood Mountain when he lived in the governor mansion. Commander Su had met him and knew that he was Ding Mo's guest. The one being able to be Ding Mo's guest definitely had an extraordinary background, so even if he was aware that Jian Wushuang was just an Eternal Realm expert, he did not dare to put on airs. Nothing. I am just curious why Elder Ding Mo greeted the 3 people who have just arrived personally. I speculate that they must be out of the ordinary? Jian Wushuang seemed to ask casually. They? Commander Su raised his eyebrows and laughed. Of course, they are from the Ancient Monster Clan. The Ancient Monster Clan? Jian Wushuang's heart throbbed. The Ancient Monster Clan was one of the 4 top populations. It turns out that they are experts from a top population. Jian Wushuang pretended to sigh with emotion. Our master would not have welcomed them in person just due to that reason. What matters the most is the man standing in the middle, the Dao Master 9 Sword. Although his strength is inferior to that of the other 2 men, he enjoys quite a high status in the Ancient Monster Clan. The 2 Dao Masters behind him were sent to protect him by the Ancient Monster Clan. Commander Su said, Dao Master 9 Sword? Jian Wushuang's eyes narrowed. Is he very powerful? I don't know. I only know he is well known in the Divine Monster territory. It's said that the Ancient Monster Clan regards him as a treasure. But I cannot figure out what's so special about him. If you're curious about him, you can go to any intelligence organization to acquire his information. Commander Su said. I see. Jian Wushuang nodded. Thank you, Commander Su. After that, he turned around and left. According to what Commander Su had said, he left the governor mansion and found a store that sold intelligence in the city. Soon afterwards, he obtained detailed information about the Ancient Monster Clan and Dao Master 9 Sword. Then he returned to the governor mansion, closed the door, and leafed through the information alone. His pupils shrank and some cold light flickered in his eyes after he glanced over the information about the Ancient Monster Clan. As I expected, the Ancient Monster Clan is the population with the bloodline of the ancient god. Jiao no, Dao Master 9 Sword, after 2,000 years, we finally meet again. Chapter 1032, Ancient Monster Clan and Dao Master 9 Sword. Chapter 1032, Ancient Monster Clan and Dao Master 9 Sword. Jiao. Jian Wushuang could feel his heart brimming with killing intent upon thinking about the name. It was him who had kidnapped his mother and snatched his father's sword soul in the ancient world previously. The fiend had even destroyed the Ji clan personally. Jian Wushuang had seen Jiao before. Of course, at that time, the latter was only a wisp of consciousness that had possessed a puppet fighter. After the incident, Jian Wushuang and his father climbed their way to the summit of the ancient world, but neither of them knew that Jiao had brought Jian Wushuang's mother back to the ancient world long ago. His father, Jian Nantian, had decided to make the irreversible decision to become a reincarnator once he knew about it. As such, if it were not for Jiao, many things would not have happened. Jian Wushuang felt an unprecedented hatred toward Jiao. Now, after 2,000 years, he finally got to meet Jiao again. It's him, everything happened because of him. Jian Wushuang thought, his gaze turning icy cold. If it weren't for him, my father would never have taken the risk of becoming a reincarnator and he would have been reunited with my mother a long time ago. They would not have been separated for so long until now. There's also the issue of the Ji clan. They were exterminated because of Jiao's doing. Jian Wushuang clenched his fists tightly. He wished he could torture Jiao slowly, but his enemy's current status amazed him. Not only did Jiao have the power of a rank 3 Dao Master, but he also had a huge standing in the Ancient Monster Clan. He had 2 peak rank 3 experts serving as his guards. It was a privilege few in the Ancient Monster Clan enjoyed. Ancient Monster Clan. Jian Wushuang finished reading his research material. He now had a certain knowledge of the clan. Not only was the Ancient Monster Clan one of the top clans, but it was also arguably the strongest clan out of the 4 top clans. Their people even had 2 types of bloodlines. The first bloodline was that of the ancient gods. As for the second, it was that of the heavenly monsters. The Ancient Monster Clan is extraordinary, Gu Qing's voice rang in Jian Wushuang's mind. Needless to say, the ancient gods were at the apex of the eternal chaotic world, and their bloodline was extremely precious and dominant. As for the heavenly demons, they were also extremely famous, and even though they were somewhat weaker than the ancient gods, the difference between both lineages was not too great. It was extremely rare to have any one of these two bloodlines, so it's very strange for the ancient monster clan to possess both. Jian Wushuang's expression was extremely serious as he listened. He had been mired in doubt as to how he came to possess the bloodline of the ancient gods, but everything was clear to him now. Perhaps, my mother is from the ancient monster clan, Jian Wushuang thought. The combined might of the ancient monster clan was extremely great because of the fact that it possessed the two great bloodlines. There were already 3 celestial masters and countless strong Dao masters within the clan. It possessed so much strength that even the Samsara temple dared not take it lightly. As for Jiao Xiu, the Dao Master Nine Sword, he seemed to have been treated by the clan as a precious treasure because he had awoken an extremely rare bloodline. That said, if my mother was really from the ancient monster clan, why would she go to the ancient world? And that Jiao Xiu, said Jian Wushuang as he frowned. To that, Jian Wushuang, I might know of a possibility, replied Gu Qing. What possibility? Asked Jian Wushuang. Reincarnation. Gu Qing replied, his tone solemn. What? Jian Wushuang exclaimed as his eyes opened wide. Reincarnation? He thought. What reincarnation is he referring to? Could it be that kind that means one gets reborn into the world after death? In the eternal chaotic world, one could get reborn and get a chance to cultivate again. If your mother really awoke the heavenly monster bloodline, there's a high possibility that reincarnation was involved, said Gu Qing. Jian Wushuang winced as he heard the words of Gu Qing. He was experiencing huge emotional upheaval. Reincarnation. It was the first time he had heard the term, and it made him feel extremely alarmed. That said, aside from his alarm, he came to understand many more things. I understand now, I understand everything now. Jian Wushuang let out a stream of air lightly. He began to understand that many of his deductions were true. It's a pity that even though this material is extremely detailed, it did not mention anything about my mother, Jian Wushuang said, shaking his head as he held the documents. Now that he had discovered the whereabouts of Jiao Xiu, he wanted to find an opportunity to kill him, but the more pressing matter was to find out where his mother was. To find out where my mother is currently, I have to act from Jiao Xiu, Jian Wushuang proclaimed, a murderous gaze in his eyes. What are you planning to do, Jian Wushuang? Gu Qing's voice rang out again. Don't forget, there are 2 Dao Masters at the peak of rank 3 by his side. You have basically not much hope of making a move against Jiao Xiu under their watchful eyes. I know that, Jian Wushuang replied as he nodded slightly. He understood that it would not be easy to get to Jiao Xiu. After all, he did not merely wish to defeat or even kill Jiao Xiu, he wanted to capture his enemy alive or subdue him so that he could interrogate him. Capturing him alive will be much harder than defeating or killing him outright. Putting the interference from the 2 Dao Masters aside, I don't even have much confidence of subduing Jiao Xiu in a head-on contest. Furthermore, Empyrean Patriarch has placed a bounty of 20 Chaos Gems on my head. If I were to remain in hiding, no one would be able to identify me, but if I move against Jiao Xiu, my identity will be exposed and there will be even more trouble when Empyrean Patriarch comes chasing after me. He thought. Even though the path ahead is fraught with obstacles, it's the only way if I want to find out where my mother is, exclaimed Jian Wushuang in a low tone. From the research material, Jian Wushuang gathered that Jiao Xiu could normally be found in the den of the ancient monster clan. He seldom showed himself and ventured out even less often. This time, he was making a rare trip away from home and would return to the ancient monster clan after he was done dealing his affairs. If Jian Wushuang missed this chance, it would be much harder for him to harm Jiao Xiu again. I don't know how long I'll have to wait for another chance. Therefore, I have to give it a shot no matter how hard or risky it'll be, said Jian Wushuang, a resolute gaze in his eyes. Evidently, he had already made up his mind. Since you've already decided, I shall not stop you. Before you strike, however, you should plan in detail. You shouldn't act unless you're sure, but once you do, make sure you hit your target. Also, your plan should also allow you to retreat in one piece, suggested Gu King solemnly. I understand, nodded Jian Wushuang. There are 2 Dao Masters at peak rank 3 with Jiu Xiu, and there's not much chance of success if I act alone. I can, however, get more help. Even though no one in the Samsara continent will offend the ancient monster clan simply, if I offer a huge reward, some people will be willing to help me. Take for instance, Blood Saber. Chapter 1033, The Blood Saber Organization. Chapter 1033, The Blood Saber Organization. There was a rundown shop in an isolated corner of the Emperor Heart City. There was usually no customers at the shop, and if it were not for Commander Su's directions, Jian Wushuang would not have known about its existence. A man dressed in blood-red robes, wearing a blood-colored wicked-looking mask and carrying a saber strode into the shop. Are you looking for anything, sir? Asked a skinny elder sitting at the shop counter as he peered over. I'm looking for Blood Saber, said the man in the blood-red mask. The old man's lips formed into a slight smile as he heard the visitor's words. Please follow me. Under the skinny elder's guidance, Jian Wushuang came to a dimly lit secret chamber after a short while. He found a spot to sit and lifted his head toward the old man. I heard that your Blood Saber organization is the strongest faction of killers in the Samsara continent, and that you people will accept any sort of task. The Blood Saber organization's reputation in the Samsara continent was indeed formidable, and its methods were also extremely effective. It was said that the organization had even attempted to assassinate a celestial master, and even though the mission failed, the celestial master was heavily wounded and paid a heavy price. You're exaggerating, sir. Even though we may be reputable, it's not true that we'll accept any task. We will definitely not accept requests such as the assassination of the Samsara Temple Master or killing the Celestial Masters at the apex of our world, such as Empyrean Patriarch or the rulers of the 4 top clans, the old man replied with a laugh. Of course, other than such tasks, our organization will accept any request for the right price. The person I want to move against may not be a monster just below the Celestial Master level, but he's involved with the Ancient Monster Clan, one of the 4 top clans, said Jian Wushuang nonchalantly. The Ancient Monster Clan, said the old man as he frowned slightly at first, but reverted to his usual self shortly after. Even though they are strong, if we kill 1 or 2 of them, it's no cause for them to turn against us completely. That said, may I know who your target is, sir? Dao Master 9 Sword, replied Jian Wushuang directly. The old man's expression immediately changed. If it were just an ordinary member of the Ancient Monster Clan, will not be afraid, even if the target was an extremely strong Dao Master or a Dao Master at the peak rank 3. As for Dao Master 9 Sword, the old man thought. I know how important he is to the Ancient Monster Clan. He's practically their treasure. If he dies, it's possible that they could go crazy seeking revenge. So, you can't accept the job? Jian Wushuang said, having seen through the old man's thoughts. It's not that we won't accept the job, but it's because Dao Master 9 Sword holds an extremely peculiar position in the Ancient Monster Clan. If we get involved in his business, it'll lead to a whole string of events. Even if we're the Blood Saber organization, we can't afford to take it lightly. Of course, the most important thing is, will you be able to afford the adequate payment for this job, sir? The skinny elder asked. What is the reward expected? Questioned Jian Wushuang. 30 chaos gems, replied the skinny elder. It was an amount equivalent to all the assets of a celestial master. The bounty of 20 chaos gems placed on Jian Wushuang's head after he killed Empyrean Patriarch's son had already sent shockwaves throughout the entire Samsara continent, and many factions and clans were eyeing the reward. The price requested by the old man was 10 chaos gems more than that. It was indeed a sky-high price. I don't need your organization to kill Dao Master 9 Sword. I just need you to hold off the 2 Dao Masters by his side who are at peak rank 3 and not give them a chance to strike. As for Dao Master 9 Sword, I'll find someone else to attack him, said Jian Wushuang. Dao Master Nine Sword is not that powerful himself, but of huge importance. It doesn't matter if the Blood Saber organization assassinates him or helps someone to act against him, it'll offend the ancient monster clan greatly. They're offenses of the same nature in their eyes. As such, even if it's just to dispatch an expert to aid you, it'll still cost you 28 Chaos Gems. There's no bargaining about that, replied the skinny elder in a low tone. 28 Chaos Gems? Asked Jian Wushuang as his emotions stirred. He was in possession of the many treasures left behind by Dao Yuanzi. Dao Yuanzi was an expert from the eternal chaotic world and had many assets. He had 300 Chaos Gems in total. Even though it was a huge amount, and the 28 Chaos Gems requested by the old man was not too many, Jian Wushuang still felt heartache as he knew the value of these gems. That said, if he wanted to go after Jiu Xiu, he had to pay the price. After all, other than the Blood Saber organization, he could not find anyone else to help him. He did not have many close contacts in the Samsara continent, and even Dao Master Dreamless, with whom he was acquainted with, would not want to go against the ancient monster clan on Jian Wushuang's behalf. Take these 10 Chaos Gems as the deposit. After the deed is done, I'll pay you the remaining 18 gems, said Jian Wushuang as he drew out 10 Chaos Gems with a wave of his hand. The skinny elder's eyes brightened up uncontrollably upon seeing the gems. I'll assign some experts to the task immediately, he kept replying after receiving his deposit. You have to act fast. If Dao Master Nine Sword returns back to the ancient monster clan, or if you let the opportunity to strike him slip from our hands, this deal will be off, said Jian Wushuang. Rest assured. I've received the information that Dao Master Nine Sword's coming to the Emperor Heart City, as he has some matters that require the assistance of Elder Ding Mo. He should be staying in the city for a few days, and our organization can dispatch our experts within 2 days. We'll definitely be in time, replied the old man. That's good, replied Jian Wushuang as he nodded slightly. The skinny elder began to make preparations shortly after. As the top organization of killers in the Samsara continent, the Blood Saber organization was indeed efficient. Before 2 days were up, the skinny elder had brought 2 people to Jian Wushuang. Sir, let me introduce you to Army Saber and Rakshasa. They are famous Blood Moon level killers in our organization, said the skinny elder with a laugh. Jian Wushuang measured the 2 killers standing before him. They were a man and a woman respectively. The man wore a cold expression and there was an ugly sword scar on his face. He hugged his arms together, his gaze totally devoid of expression. The girl, on the other hand, was a lovely-looking teenage girl. She even wore a smile on her face and gave off the feeling that she was a pitiful young lady, but Jian Wushuang could sense a deadliness residing in the deepest spots of her jet-black pupils. Army Saber and Rakshasa? Asked Jian Wushuang, secretly approving of the 2 killers. After he decided to seek for the Blood Saber organization's assistance, Jian Wushuang had gathered some intelligence on the group. The 2 killers before him were among the most infamous of its killers. Chapter 1034, Making a Move. Chapter 1034, Making a Move. As Blood Moon level killers, both Army Saber and Rakshasa possessed peak rank 3 Dao Masters battle strength. They were also considered as one of the most powerful among their peers. It was said that both of them had killed other peak rank 3 Dao Masters, and even though it was a joint operation, it clearly showed their ability. Perhaps it was due to the fact that the Blood Saber organization knew that its sole responsibility would be to tie up the 2 rank 3 Dao Masters protecting Dao Master 9 Sword that it sent them to their client. They were known to be experts at tying up their opponents. Both of you should know about your task by now, right? Jian Wushuang asked as he looked at the 2 killers. Yes, replied Army Saber and Rakshasa, both of them slightly nodding. That's good. I hope that when executing the mission, both of you will do as I say entirely, replied Jian Wushuang. Of course, Army Saber said. You're our client. Of course, we would listen to your orders, but only within the limits of our operation. If it falls outside of our mission, we can't help you. All right, said Jian Wushuang as he nodded. After the 3 had reached a consensus, the skinny elder spoke up. I've already sent people out to keep an eye on Dao Master Nine Sword. They'll report to me once he has any movement. Then we shall wait, replied Jian Wushuang. The Emperor Heart City is full of people and experts. We should strike after he leaves the city. Right? Agreed the two killers, nodding. Jian Wushuang spent the next 3 days waiting patiently in the secret chamber. Dao Master Nine Sword is leaving, news came from the skinny elder. Finally, replied Jian Wushuang as his lips cracked into a smile. It was even chillier than the edge of a sharp knife. The very next moment he set off along with the two killers. Indeed, Dao Master Nine Sword had left the Emperor Heart City and traveled in a straight direction. After half a day's journey, they arrived before an area known to be a place where an advanced population resided. This population was known as the Bone Clan. 500 years ago, the Bone Clan used trickery which led our ancient monster clan to suffer heavy losses. It was said that they covered up the matter extremely well, but our clan members still managed to uncover their plot. When I traveled out, the third Holy Master had instructed me to exterminate them on my way back, said Dao Master Nine Sword in his customary refined manner. His gaze, though, which was fixed on the quarters of the Bone Clan, was chilly. Let's go. Jiao Xiao smiled briefly before he led the other two rank 3 Dao Masters to dash straight into the inner sanctum of the Bone Clan. Their auras were incredibly great, and they did not bother to conceal them. Many experts of the Bone Clan immediately sensed their presence once all 3 of them appeared in the void above the quarters of the Bone Clan. Who's there? Halt immediately! Shouts rang out one after another, and only after a short while, dozens of figures rose into the void. All of them were Dao Masters, and their leader was a burly middle-aged man with purple hair. He was the clan leader, but at this moment he was staring at the 3 people in front of him with a straight face. You are, the burly man began to question them. Nine Sword from the ancient monster clan, replied Dao Master Nine Sword nonchalantly. The ancient monster clan? Replied the purple-haired man. His expression, along with many experts of the Bone Clan, immediately changed, but they quickly composed themselves. So it's the famous Dao Master Nine Sword of the ancient monster clan. May I ask what brings you here today? Asked the clan leader. Nothing much. It's just that I find your Bone Clan a nuisance and wish to destroy it. Dao Master Nine Sword's tone was extremely calm, but it sounded like thunder to the people of this clan. Make your move. Dao Master Nine Sword did not waste his time with unnecessary words. With a wave of his hand, the 2 experts behind him, who had been waiting for their chance to strike, leapt out in an instant. Their terrible auras seeped out and engulfed the entire Bone Clan, immediately causing a disturbance amongst its people. That's not good. Peak rank 3 Dao Masters and 2 of them to boot. The expression of the burly man immediately changed. Quick, stop them, stop both of them, he kept bellowing. Many of Dao Masters from the Bone Clan began making their move. The purple-haired clan leader had also immediately rushed forth to confront his opponents. In an instant, all of the top-tier experts in the Bone Clan were engaged in combat with the 2 peak rank 3 Dao Masters. Even so, it was a one-sided contest. The Bone Clan was just an ordinary advanced population. Even though it was stronger than the Rock Demon and Black Python clan, it was not by much. There were only dozens of Dao Masters in the clan, and their 2 strongest experts were just at the advanced level and entry level of rank 3 respectively. Even though dozens of Dao Masters were now joining forces against the 2 peak rank 3 Dao Masters, they did not have many openings to strike. The Bone Clan was entirely engulfed with chaos once the battle began. As all of this happened, 3 figures were floating in the void not far from where the Bone Clan resided. They stood there gazing from afar, taking in all of the disturbance happening in the Bone Clan. Previously, I was curious as to what Dao Master Nine Sword was doing in the Bone Clan. It turns out that he wants to exterminate this clan. Hee, seems like we're in luck, said the lovely-looking Rakshasa with a slight smile. Given the ability of the 3 from the ancient monster clan, they'll make short work of the Bone Clan. That said, there are a few experts in the Bone Clan, and they're bound to make some last-ditch effort. Even though it will not cost those three very much, it'll be enough to drain a considerable amount of spiritual power from them. We'll strike after they've wiped out the Bone Clan. It'll help us greatly, said Army Saber solemnly. It's not necessary to wait until then. We act now, said Jian Wushuang unexpectedly in a low tone. He was standing in the middle of the two killers. What? They exclaimed, looking at Jian Wushuang in amazement. Waiting for Dao Master Nine Sword and his men to wipe out the Bone Clan before making their move was definitely the best option, but Jian Wushuang. You're indeed quite merciful, sir, said Rakshasa with a slight smile. Let's move, replied Jian Wushuang, his tone extremely cold. The two killers exchanged one look with each other and nodded slightly. Jian Wushuang was their client, and naturally, they had to follow his instructions. Our task is to hold the two peak rank 3 Dao Masters up. As for Dao Master Nine Sword, well, you've to handle him by yourself, said Army Saber. In the next instant, the two killers had drifted waif-like away and they arrived at the battlefield very quickly. The space in the void above the Bone Clan's residential area had already burst open, and the sight was terrible to bear. Dozens of Dao Masters from the Bone Clan were joining forces and trying their best to stop the two peak rank 3 Dao Masters from the ancient Monster Clan. As for Dao Master Nine Sword, he had not even made a single move. Even so, the Bone Clan was hanging on to their survival by a thin thread. Within a short period, 4 of their Dao Masters had already been slain. At this very moment, two waif-like figures dashed straight into the battlefield. Chapter 1035, Long Time No See. Chapter 1035, Long Time No See. The battle was raging on. The figure of one of Dao Master Nine Sword's guards had risen to 3 meters tall, and he gave off a vague bronze glow. He wielded a large axe and brought forth an immense amount of power. He managed to completely suppress 6 Dao Masters of the Bone Clan just by himself. Furthermore, 2 Dao Masters had already fallen to his large axe. "Ha! Die, all you bastards of the Bone Clan," he exclaimed. He bellowed like a barbarian and swung his large axe wildly. Whoosh! All of a sudden, a scarlet ray of blade light swooped down upon him. It was extremely fast and powerful. Most crucially, it happened very suddenly and nearly without warning. What? It happened so quickly that even the barbarian scrambled to react. Even so, as a peak rank 3 Dao Master, he was not flustered. With a low growl, he cast the 6 Dao Masters of the Bone Clan aside and struck back with his large axe. It left a bewildering trace as it slashed through the void, directly toward the blade light. Bang! A loud sound rang out as the two weapons clashed. The barbarian was knocked back by the impact of the clash and stumbled a few steps backward. After steadying himself, he looked cautiously at the void in front of him. A cold-looking man with a hideous sword scar on his face appeared there, a blood-red saber in his hand. "That look, and the move just now, are you Bloody Army Saber?" growled the barbarian in a low voice. On the other side of the battlefield, the other peak rank 3 Dao Master was also held up by Rakshasa. He had also recognized her very quickly. "Army Saber and Rakshasa?" commented Dao Master Nine Sword. He was standing in the void beside the combatants, his gaze gradually turning cold. It turns out that the intruders are the 2 famous Blood Moon level killers from the Blood Saber organization. It seems that you guys from the Bone Clan were well prepared and hired these 2 top-notch killers in one go. I guess you paid a hefty price, right? Dao Master Nine Sword had not noticed that the remaining experts of the Bone Clan were also wearing a bewildered look on their faces. They were not sure as to how the 2 Blood Moon level killers had appeared suddenly. "We did not hire them, didn't we?" they thought. After all, they did not expect Dao Master Nine Sword to appear today, and that he would have wanted to exterminate their clan. Furthermore, no one could hire the killers of this level as they wished. It would require a hefty payment, and based on the fortune of their clan, it would be hard for them to engage their services. So, who hired Army Saber and Rakshasa? They wondered. No matter who hired them, he or she wants to help us. With their aid, there's still a good chance our clan could survive, said the burly clan leader with a low growl, before striking again at his opponents. The experts of the Bone Clan were also overjoyed and immediately worked in tandem with the two killers. "You guys from the Blood Saber organization are indeed very bold to interfere in the matters of the ancient monster clan," said Dao Master Ninesword with an icy coldness that soon pervaded the air. "Don't try to scare me, Dao Master Ninesword. Our organization has been accepting payment to help our clients ease their suffering all this while. As long as the client can afford to pay us, there's nothing that our organization dares not to do," taunted Army Saber. Jian Wushuang was standing in the void not far away from the battle and took the entire scene in. The corners of his lips curled up and unexpectedly, he removed his wicked-looking blood-red mask. Even though the mask helped to disguise his true identity to a certain extent, it was also too conspicuous. The two peak rank 3 Dao Masters are already kept busy. "Now it's his turn," said Jian Wushuang as he fixed his gaze on Dao Master Ninesword. "Jian Wushuang, the person you're about to deal with must have some special item used for defense on him, since he managed to occupy such an important position in the ancient monster clan. Be careful not to let him slip when you strike," reminded Gu King. "Don't worry, I have my own plans," said Jian Wushuang with a slight smile, before dashing into the battlefield. Dao Master Ninesword was observing the battle from the side, but his expression was gradually turning gloomy. Both Army Saber and Rakshasa possessed peak rank 3 Dao Masters' battle strength, and they were on par with their opponents. Combined with the strength of the Bone Clan experts, the tables had now turned on his subordinates, and they were now completely suppressed. "I didn't expect killers from the Blood Saber organization to show up. Things are turning tricky now. As the #1 organization of killers in the entire Samsara continent, its strength is extraordinarily great. Even our ancient monster clan is extremely wary of it, and now that their killers are present, I think it'll be impossible to wipe out the Bone Clan today." Dao Master Ninesword was still wondering to himself when all of a sudden, a figure suddenly appeared in the void beside him and rushed toward him. The aura of an Eternal Realm expert burst forth. It even contained an unparalleled rage. "Damned ancient monster clan, I'll fight to the death with you people." A loud roar abruptly reverberated throughout the surrounding space. The attacker seemed to be someone from the Bone Clan who had gone berserk and wanted to fight Dao Master Ninesword to the death. Dao Master Ninesword still stood at his original spot, and a look of disdain flashed across his face when he heard the roar coming from his side. He could not even bother to turn to look at his opponent and absent-mindedly struck a finger toward the void where his opponent was coming from. A ray of sword essence burst forth with amazing speed. Even though it was a move made casually by Dao Master Ninesword, its power was extremely great. Even a rank 1 Dao Master could very possibly not survive the attack, much less an Eternal Realm expert. The sword essence leapt forward and at first, everything happened according to Dao Master Ninesword's expectations. It appeared directly in front of his opponent, and there was no way the Eternal Realm expert could escape as it struck him square on the body. The Eternal Realm expert still continued advancing, but at a much reduced speed. The aura from him was also rapidly diminishing. "You're nothing but an ant, yet you wish to fight me to the death?" asked Dao Master Ninesword with a contemptuous laugh. But suddenly, the Eternal Realm expert, whose speed had been greatly reduced, suddenly lifted his head and burst forth with a boom. The space behind him burst open, and his figure pierced through the void in an instant. He appeared in front of Dao Master Ninesword simultaneously. Such speed was many times faster than those ordinary Dao Masters. "What?" exclaimed Dao Master Ninesword, who could not help but feel extremely alarmed now. He turned his head immediately to look at his opponent. It was only at this very moment that he finally saw his enemy's face. His pupils shrank abruptly upon seeing it. "You're..." He opened his mouth trying to say something. Jian Wushuang laughed coldly. It sounded as chilly as the coldest winter. "Jiao Xiao, it's been a while since we last met each other," he said, every one of his words traveling deep into Dao Master Ninesword's ears, causing all of the hairs on his body to stand up. Chapter 1036, Those Words at That Time. Chapter 1036, Those Words at That Time. Long time no see, Jiu Xiu. An extremely beautiful ray of sword light suddenly shone as Jian Wushuang finished speaking. It looked extremely perfect as it sliced easily through the void and appeared in front of Jiu Xiu. Not only did it travel with amazing speed, the instant it shone, there was also a strong consciousness attack rushing toward Jiu Xiu. Even so, Jiu Xiu's expression just changed slightly as he met the attack face-on. A gold ray of sword light came rushing forth. Why did my consciousness attack have no effect on him? And how did he manage to block my death shadow when it traveled so quickly? Thought Jian Wushuang, feeling surprised. Clash. The sound of metal striking against metal rang out as Jian Wushuang's death shadow was blocked. Jiu Xiu's figure had merely been knocked back. He did not suffer any serious wound. Jiu Xiu's strength is much greater than what was described in the research material, thought Jian Wushuang, a serious expression on his face. Is my plan actually failing? He had long known that Jiu Xiu was the precious treasure of the ancient monster clan and that he would have some moves up his sleeve. As such, Jian Wushuang had come up with a plan when he struck. It was to disguise himself as a clansman of the Bone Clan who had been driven insane and was looking to fight Jiu Xiu to the death. He would first draw near him and then sprang into action, using his death shadow to behead Jiu Xiu when he was unprepared before subduing him. As a Dao master, even if Jiu Xiu had lost his head, he would still be alive as long as Jian Wushuang kept the life core in his body from completely disintegrating. Everything had gone according to Jian Wushuang's plan at first. He had purposely exposed the aura of an Eternal Realm expert when charging toward Jiu Xiu, and as Jiu Xiu was unaware of his true identity at first, it gave him the prime opportunity to strike. What he did not expect was that Jiu Xiu's strength was much greater than described. Most importantly, Jiu Xiu had been unaffected by his consciousness attack, resulting in his inability to behead Jiu Xiu at the very first instant. Since my plan has failed, I can only use the most simple and violent method of resolving this conflict, Jian Wushuang thought as a glow burst forth from his eyes and his killing intent skyrocketed. He then immediately charged forward. Since his sneak attack had failed, he would have to use brute force. Are you Jian Wushuang? Jiu Xiu was first surprised and angry, but he felt more bewildered than anything else later. He steadied himself and fixed his gaze on Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang, however, was in no mood for idle talk. He brandished the Blood Mountain sword with one hand, causing it to expand to a length of about 3 meters, before swinging. An extremely ferocious sword light descended upon Jiu Xiu. Not only was it ferocious, but it also seemed as though it could destroy everything in its path. This move was a swordsmanship created by Jian Wushuang himself based on the Scarlet Yang sword principle. It was different from the death shadow in nature. The move was forceful and mighty, destroying everything in its path. As such, Jian Wushuang named it the Heaven's Bane. Like its name suggested, its force was enough to split heaven and earth into two. This move, muttered Jiu Xiu as he observed the strike. There was a flash of surprise in his eyes before the golden longsword in his hand began expanding quickly as well. Whoosh! He swung his sword too, the frightening sword light tearing a hole about 300 meters long in the surrounding void. Soon, there was spatial turbulence around the opening, and combined with the devastating sword essence, a huge storm began to form all of a sudden and it started to expand in all directions. Both Jiu Xiu and Jian Wushuang were killed in sword principles. Furthermore, both of them had unleashed their strongest attacks in a head-on clash. Just as the two sword lights hit each other, Jiu Xiu coughed out a large mouthful of blood and he began turning pale. Jian Wushuang, on the other hand, had not experienced any impact. It was as if nothing had happened to him. Humph, your strength may have been greater than described in the material I acquired, but you're at most close to peak rank 3 level. You're still far away from being able to take me on directly, scoffed Jian Wushuang, his tone icy cold. His voice reverberated throughout the space around them. His figure had once again turned into a sharp sword and it forcefully teared through the rampaging storm, unexpectedly striking at Jiu Xiu again. Evidently, he did not wish to give his opponent any respite. How is this possible? How could Jian Wushuang be so powerful? Zhou Xiu thought. He felt that it was incredible. When they had met in the ancient world, Jian Wushuang was as insignificant as an ant or even worse to him. Then, he could have killed Jian Wushuang over and over again with just one finger if he did not have any scruples. But what about now? Zhou Xiu thought. They had clashed head-on and unexpectedly, Jian Wushuang had completely crushed him. Evidently, his opponent was much stronger. How many years have passed? It was only 2,000 years, right? It just took 2,000 years for him to progress to such a level, thought Zhou Xiu as he opened his eyes wide. At the same time, he could not help thinking about what Jian Wushuang told him at the Holy Emperor Palace in the ancient world. Every dog has its day, so don't look down on me just because I'm weak now. It was very simple and he had brushed it aside as immature and laughable, but now, it had a huge impact on him. It took him, an aborigine of the ancient world, just 2,000 years to catch up with and even surpass me, muttered Zhou Xiu. Zhou Xiu, I told you in the ancient world that I'll hunt you down and destroy you someday. Today, I'm going to make my promise come true, said Jian Wushuang, his voice loud enough to cause the heavens to shake. The blood mountain sword in his hand came swinging again. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. One move came after another at an incredible speed. Jian Wushuang was displaying the entire range of his swordsmanships. You think you can do that? Retorted Zhou Xiu, his eyes turning red as well. There was also a hint of craziness in his eyes. He did not have any intention of blocking Jian Wushuang's attack, as he was very clear that he was no match for his opponent in terms of strength. He was, however, not anxious at all. He fished out a token just as the strike was about to hit him. He then immediately crushed it. Jian Wushuang, you'll die no matter how you manage to improve your strength, growled Zhou Xiu. His face had turned extraordinarily sinister, and it even began to distort. A bone-chilling power was unleashed the instant the token was destroyed. That's not good, said Jian Wushuang as his expression changed suddenly. Quick, retreat now. Gu Qing's growl rang in Jian Wushuang's mind. Jian Wushuang had retreated the instant he sensed the power being released, but it was guided by Zhou Xiu and had turned into a blood-red giant hand in an instant. It gave immense pressure to every living thing in the vicinity. The skies changed color the moment the giant hand formed, and the void collapsed in an instant. It then began crushing down on Jian Wushuang's position. Chapter 1037, Suppression. Chapter 1037, Suppression. Boom. The giant hand possessed immense destructive power and it covered the void around Jian Wushuang entirely, even locking down his movements completely in the process. Even though Jian Wushuang possessed great speed, he could not escape from the effective range of the giant hand and could only watch helplessly as it came crushing down. This is an attack from a celestial master, and not just any ordinary one to boot. You have to be careful, Jian Wushuang, said Gu Qing, sounding extraordinarily solemn. Right, agreed Jian Wushuang, nodding heavily. I've expected Zhou Xiu to have some tricks up his sleeve, but I never expected him to possess a token containing a celestial master's attack. Jian Wushuang looked serious as he stared at the giant hand. He could feel its power and he understood that it was many times more powerful than the strongest blow of Dao Master Dreamless Spear. Even though it was an entry-level technique that was just at the Celestial Master level, it had wounded him seriously. Now this giant hand, he thought. No matter what, I can't wait to be killed. He looked a little unhinged as the ancient god power came gushing forth into his right arm. Second finger of the ancient god, star extinguishing. Boom! As he struck his finger out, the image of an ancient god appeared out of nowhere and it mirrored Jian Wushuang's action. Its giant gold finger, which encompassed the power to shatter stars, struck directly at the giant blood-red hand. This move was currently the strongest technique in Jian Wushuang's arsenal. In terms of power, it was much greater than that of the Heaven's Bane he used earlier. Bump! the giant gold finger made direct contact with the giant hand. The instant they touched, the space around them began rupturing, creating a black hole hundreds of kilometers long in the process. The black hole spread with astounding speed, affecting a number of clansmen from the Bone Clan who were nearby. They immediately crumbled into dust particles the instant they were swallowed up by the black hole. There was no way they could struggle away. Two kinds of terrible powers were in a head-on collision. Contrary to belief, such clashes only lasted for an instant, even shorter than the time it took to take a breath. The giant gold finger that was unleashed by Jian Wushuang had been utterly destroyed. There was nothing else stopping the giant hand, and it resumed its path toward Jian Wushuang. "I can only rely on the blood-killing plate armor now," Jian Wushuang said, the fire of defiance raging in his eyes. The terrible hand covered Jian Wushuang completely before its power was completely unleashed. All of a sudden, heaven and earth started to split open. The terrible ripples from the clash had swept toward the edge of the battlefield, and even the Dao masters standing around the sides looked fearful and dared not to get in contact. The technique had even more devastating effect at the epicenter of the clash. "You should feel proud, Jian Wushuang, that you forced me to use my life-saving item," said Jiuxiu as he stood in the void, his chilling gaze fixed to the front. In his opinion, only a celestial master could withstand such a terrible blast. Even though Jian Wushuang was powerful, he was still in essence just an eternal realm expert. He would surely be unable to survive after being caught in the center of the blast. Suddenly, however, ching! A piercing wind-breaking sound suddenly rang out. "What?" asked Jiuxiu incredulously as his expression changed. He immediately turned to see a pale purple lightsaber racing toward him vaguely. There was a figure dressed in black robes standing at the void from where the lightsaber came flying out from, and it was undoubtedly Jian Wushuang. "How is this possible?" thought Jiuxiu, his eyes wide open with surprise. "How is it that he's perfectly fine after being hit by such a fearsome attack? Also, when did he arrive behind me?" Even though Jiuxiu was full of amazement, he still managed to block the lightsaber with his own sword. The lightsaber was knocked backward with a resounding clash, as was Jiuxiu. More importantly, he was headed toward the spot where the might of the giant hand had been unleashed, and the turbulent energy storm created earlier had not subsided entirely. Just at this moment, a ghost-like figure came dashing out from the energy storm. Even though the person cut a sorry figure, he possessed amazing speed, and he struck at Jiuxiu's figure with his long sword. The sword stroke was as perfect as before, and even though consciousness attack had little effect on Jiuxiu, it was still made with great speed. The sword light dashed across the void mercilessly. Jiuxiu could only feel a painful sensation at his throat as his head was detached from his neck and flew off. "Is that doppelganger?" Jiuxiu asked, his pupils wide open. He had finally realized what was happening, but it was too late. "Sword Mountain, suppress!" Jian Wushuang growled. The Blood Mountain sword in his hand began to transform. What was originally a blood-red sword, which epitomized endless killing, had transformed into a huge mountain in an instant. It descended from above and came pressing down upon Jiuxiu's torso. At the height of his powers, Jiuxiu would not have been suppressed by Jian Wushuang, but he had been beheaded, and even though he was still alive, he had temporarily lost the ability to act. There was a buzzing sound as a black hole appeared at the bottom of the mountain, and countless mysterious cracks came swarming out of it. They soon engulfed the entire area and formed into a vast spell formation. The formation had wrapped over Jiuxiu's body. No, only a growl could be heard from him as he was entirely swallowed up by the black hole. Soon, no sound was coming from him. With a wave of his hand, the mountain transformed back into sword form and reappeared in Jian Wushuang's hand. As he stroked the sword, Jian Wushuang could sense the trapped Jiuxiu. "I succeeded." His eyes were bright with glee, and his slaughter body appeared at his side. He had made detailed preparations before attempting the suppression. Other than making a sneak attack, he had hidden his slaughter body nearby, waiting for the right moment to unleash it. He had succeeded because it attacked at the right moment and was in sync with the movements of his world body. That giant hand was really powerful. I wonder which holy master of the ancient demon clan did it originate from? Jian Wushuang muttered. Its power was not reduced in the least bit even after being hit by his second finger of the ancient god, and it had even pressed onto Jian Wushuang. Luckily, the blood-killing plate armor he was wearing reduced most of the impact, and he managed to withstand the rest of it as his body was extremely tough due to the fact that he was a 3-star imperial god. Even though he was seriously wounded, it was not enough to destroy him. Chapter 1030, I've earned. Chapter 1038, I've earned. Of course, even though I was tough and muscular and I also had the protection of the blood-killing plate armor, it's still insufficient to withstand the attack of a real celestial master. If there were more attacks like that just now, I would have been unable to hold on, Jian Wushuang thought. He shook his head and then looked toward the battle happening at his side. The other battle was still raging on while Jian Wushuang and Jiao Xiu were locking horns. The two guards of the latter had seen their leader in danger and wanted to come to his rescue, but unfortunately, Army Saber and Rakshasa were keeping them occupied. There was no way they could free themselves up. The shock on their faces was evident when they witnessed Jiao Xiu being suppressed by Jian Wushuang. Release Dao Master 9 Sword quickly, or the ancient monster clan will hunt you to the ends of the earth and make sure there's nothing left of your body, roared the barbarian wielding the giant axe. Hee, to the ends of the earth? Talk to me again when you can really do that, giggled Jian Wushuang before tossing an interspatial ring in Army Saber's direction. This is your balance payment, Army Saber. I hope you can keep them occupied for a while longer, said Jian Wushuang. The killer received the ring and gave it the once-over. Both of us can delay them for another 15 minutes. The experts of the ancient monster clan will arrive shortly after that time and both of us have to leave before that happens, he replied, nodding. That's enough, said Jian Wushuang, smiling slightly. He then turned and dashed toward the vast space toward their back, not giving any further attention to the other people present. Bastard, don't flee if you dare, shouted the barbarian after Jian Wushuang. Fool, he's already captured Dao Master 9 Sword. Do you mean that he should remain behind like an idiot for the experts from your clan to arrive? Replied Army Saber sarcastically. Accursed, shouted the barbarian, his expression extremely unpleasant. He and the other peak rank 3 Dao Master had very much wanted to shake Army Saber and Rakshasa loose and chase after Jian Wushuang, but they were evenly matched and furthermore, both killers were especially skilled at holding their opponents up. They could not hope to go anywhere as long as Army Saber and Rakshasa kept coming at them. The two killers stuck to their promise and tangled with their opponents for exactly 15 minutes more. After the allotted time was up, their figures began retreating. Now that 15 minutes is up, Army Saber and I will not stop both of you from going where you want, Rakshasa said as she laughed demurely. You two bastards. The two Dao Masters looked extremely grim, and even though they were free to move now, they had already lost the motivation to chase after Jian Wushuang. After all, 15 minutes had already gone by. It was a short period of time, but their strength enabled them to fight for many rounds during this period. It was also enough time for Jian Wushuang to have fled thousands of kilometers away, and without proper guidance, it would be pointless to chase after someone at such a far distance away, they would just be lost. The ancient monster clan will remember what happened today, Army Saber and Rakshasa. If anything happens to Dao Master 9 Sword, the entire Blood Saber organization will accompany him in death, growled the barbarian. Humph, do you think that will scare us? Replied Army Saber, entirely disregarding the warning. Even though the ancient monster clan is strong, our organization is no pushover either. If you guys really want to come after us, I can't say what will happen to us, but your clansmen will only be able to remain indoors for the rest of your lives. We'll assassinate anyone that steps outdoors, added Rakshasa in a chilly tone. It made the barbarian even angrier. Fine. We shall see. Let's go, the barbarian said. He then left with the other Dao Master. They were already in no mood to exterminate the Bone Clan. Army Saber and Rakshasa were standing side by side in the void above the Bone Clan district. This time, The ancient monster clan must be mad with rage, said Army Saber coldly. Hee hee, after all, something did happen to Tao Master Nine Sword, their precious darling. It would be weird if they didn't go berserk, giggled Rakshasa. I'm more curious about our client than the reaction of the ancient monster clan. Earlier on, when he told us to hold the 2 guards, I thought that he would assign another expert to handle Tao Master Nine Sword. Who would have thought that he would do it by himself? Furthermore, he succeeded in suppressing Tao Master Nine Sword. When the Tao Master unleashed his trump card, the Celestial Master's attack, he actually survived. Only one person in the entire Samsara continent, nay, the entire Green Fire world, could be an Eternal Realm expert and yet have such ability. Jian Wushuang, exclaimed Army Saber as he squinted slightly. Both killers had guessed their client's identity after watching him suppress Tao Master Nine Sword. The answer was so obvious that not much guessing was really required. Jian Wushuang was the only Eternal Realm expert in the Green Fire world that possessed so much skill and tactics that defied the natural order of things. I didn't expect our client to be the Jian Wushuang who was so famous of late, said Rakshasa as she laughed softly. He's really daring. Previously, he killed the only son of Empyrean Patriarch, leading him to place a bounty of 20 Chaos Gems on his head. It resulted in everyone wanting a piece of him, but now he wants to go against the even scarier Ancient Monster Clan, and even managed to offend them so greatly, Tisk, Army Saber added, secretly admiring Jian Wushuang. Oh yes, his whereabouts are worth 20 Chaos Gems. Should we? Started Rakshasa, but she was soon cut off by her partner. I've already reported the entire matter, and whatever those old fellas decide on has nothing to do with us. Our task is completed, and it's best for us to leave, said Army Saber. Right. Rakshasa nodded, and both of them immediately prepared to leave. Only the experts of the Bone Clan remained, and every one of them was puzzled. They had not managed to figure out the entire chain of events up till now. In the same isolated shop in the Emperor Heart City, the skinny elder that had served Jian Wushuang had now received the message transmitted back by Army Saber. Oh, so that kid's Jian Wushuang? Said the skinny elder. He was surprised at first, but soon he began to understand. Actually, I should have thought about it earlier. How could any ordinary Eternal Realm expert hand over 28 Chaos Gems just like that? To think that Empyrean Patriarch was hell-bent on finding him. Who would have guessed that our Blood Saber organization would be the first to know where he is? He continued, a slight smile forming on his lips. He then took out a token and informed Empyrean Patriarch about Jian Wushuang's whereabouts. This mission, although offended the Ancient Monster Clan, but got 28 Chaos Gems, plus 20 more from Empyrean Patriarch, nearly 50, I earned. Chapter 1039, Shaking with Rage. Chapter 1039, Shaking with Rage. To think that Jian Wushuang would have fled to the divine monster territory. First, he offended me, and now he's causing so many problems for the Ancient Monster Clan. The eyes of Empyrean Patriarch glowed as he received the news. Now the Tao Master Nine Sword has been captured alive. The Ancient Monster Clan will be hell-bent on hunting down Jian Wushuang. Even so, that kid can only be killed by me. Set forth 10 protectors. In this manner, Empyrean Patriarch led the 10 protectors to the divine monster territory. At the same time, something was happening within the Ancient Monster Clan. News of Tao Master Nine Sword's capture by Jian Wushuang immediately reached them, causing the clansmen to shake with rage. Everyone in the Samsara continent knows that Nine Sword is our darling. How dare you, Jian Wushuang? Luckily, I had left a mysterious crack on Nine Sword's body a long time ago as a precaution. Since there's still a reaction from it, he should still be alive. I'll go to fetch Nine Sword back personally. Along the way, I'll destroy that Jian Wushuang. As such, Celestial Master Winter Whistle, one of the 3 Celestial Masters of the Ancient Monster Clan, set forth to rescue Jiuxiu. Since leaving the Bone Clan district, Jian Wushuang had been traveling forward. Jiuxiu. Jian Wushuang's gaze was icy cold as he transmitted his consciousness into the Blood Mountain sword. He also triggered a few restrictions within the tip of the sword as well. These restrictions were brutal and could cause a lot of suffering and pain to the intended victim. Jiao Xiu's body had already been restored, but wave after wave of restrictions began to torture him now. The deep pain he felt caused his face to completely distort. I want to know everything about my mother, as well as her current location. Tell me all of it, or else, Jian Wushuang said. Jiao Xiu managed to squeeze out a thin smile from his contorted face upon hearing his captor's request. It looked extremely hideous. Hee, Jian Wushuang, are you taking me for a fool? If I tell you everything, would I still be alive? You'll still die even if you keep quiet, replied Jian Wushuang coldly. Then we shall see who gets to die first, retorted Jiao Xiu, looking very unhinged. He was very clear that the reason he was still alive was that Jian Wushuang wanted to know about some secrets from him. As such, there was a possibility he could survive if he refused to cooperate. After all, the Celestial Master from the ancient monster clan was on the way to rescue him. He was sure that Jian Wushuang would kill him outright without hesitation if he started speaking. You are indeed stubborn. I want to see how long you can withstand this torture, Jian Wushuang said firmly in a low voice. He unleashed the power of the restrictions again, causing the pain Jiao Xiu was facing to increase by many times. Jiao Xiu could only try his best to withstand it. Also, there was someone else in the tip of the sword. He began shouting desperately now. Jian Wushuang, how you want to torture him has nothing to do with me. Absolutely nothing at all. Your restrictions are affecting me too, arg. Halt immediately. The person's screams were pitiful and terrible. Evidently, he was undergoing huge torment. Oh, is that Su Ming? Jian Wushuang sneered. Many years ago, Jian Wushuang had trapped Su Ming, the traitor of the bloodline of the sword ancestor, in the tip of his sword, torturing him as and when he liked. After so many years of continuous suffering, the traitor had long lost his temper, and Jian Wushuang had lost interest in trying to make him suffer. Today, however, Jian Wushuang had trapped Jiao Xiu in the same sword and began to impose restrictions again. Even though Jiao Xiu bore the brunt of it, a small portion of it was still transmitted to Su Ming. Naturally, Su Ming hollered as he started to suffer all over again. Jian Wushuang, however, was not bothered by him. There are many restrictions in the tip of the sword that can be used to torture, and they are all very powerful. It's a pity that I can't trigger some of them now, muttered Jian Wushuang to himself. It had been many years since he obtained the Blood Mountain sword. It could be used to kill and suppress. Jian Wushuang was fully aware of the sword's usefulness in killing. It was even better than many emperor weapons. That said, he felt that its second function was even more exceptional. The only problem was that he was still unable to unlock the full potential of said function. The treasures my teacher gave me are all unique in their own right, as if the Blood Mountain sword, he continued muttering. It's indeed unique, Gu King said suddenly. Before, I also thought of it as merely a stronger emperor weapon, but I soon realized that it was so special that it was beyond a magic weapon, mostly due to its suppression capability. Just this function alone increases its worth by a lot. Perhaps, it's even as valuable as the blood-killing plate armor you obtained. Jian Wushuang could not help but laugh as he heard Gu King's comments. The armor is an extremely rare and wonderful chaos magic treasure. If the sword is of about the same value as it must be very powerful. In the entire Green Fire world, even some of the strongest Samsara and Void Temple Masters or Tang Emperor did not possess any chaos magic treasure, but Jian Wushuang already had two. Besides, he also had an incomplete mountain river map, which could also be classified as a chaos divine treasure. We shall keep Jiao Xiu in the tip of the sword for a while longer. I don't believe that he won't crack after receiving a certain amount of torture over time, thought Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang, I'm afraid things are not as easy as you think, Gu King's voice suddenly rang out. What's wrong? Asked Jian Wushuang, furrowing his eyebrows. I just noticed that Jiao Xiu had a mysterious crack on his body. If I guess correctly, it was purposely made by one of the ancient monster clan's celestial masters. They probably will be able to sense his location from the tattoo, said Gu King. What? Asked Jian Wushuang, his expression changing. Even though such a tactic was not very useful under normal circumstances, it would come in handy during emergency situations such as this. It was exactly like the time when Tang Emperor had left a mark on Lung Rushuang when she left. He then gave Jian Wushuang a token so that he could use it to find his wife if he went venturing in the eternal chaotic world. The tattoo on Jiu Xiu worked in the same way. The ancient monster clan had put it on Jiu Xiu solely to protect him. The ancient monster clan can hunt you down easily as long as the mysterious crack exists. If everything goes according to my expectations, one of their celestial masters is already on his way here, Gu King said. Gu King, can't you get rid of it? Asked Jian Wushuang. I can remove it within half a day's time if he doesn't resist. If he does, it'll be much harder to get rid of it, said Gu King in a deep tone. It'll take half a day even if he cooperates? Replied Jian Wushuang, frowning. It was way too long. The expert from the ancient monster clan would have caught up with him long before that. Chapter 1040, It's Worth a Risk. Chapter 1040, It's Worth a Risk. Jian Wushuang, that Jiu Xiu is acting so tough because he knows that the expert from the ancient monster clan will come to his rescue. It'll be impossible for you to extract the information you need from him before they arrive, therefore I suggest you kill him outright, suggested Gu King solemnly. Kill him? Jian Wushuang asked as he squinted slightly. He was full of killing intent when faced with Jiu Xiu. Indeed, he wanted Jiu Xiu dead immediately. Before that could happen, however, he still needed to find out about his mother's whereabouts and also many secrets about the ancient monster clan. I spent so much effort in capturing Jiu Xiu, and now that I have a chance to find out where my mother is, how could I give up so easily? Asked Jian Wushuang as he clenched his fists together, feeling increasingly indignant. Right, I'm indignant, he thought. He spent so much effort to subdue Jiu Xiu and had even given up 28 chaos gems just to hire the 2 killers from the Blood Saber organization to help him. He did all these because he had wanted Jiu Xiu to tell him what he wanted to know. If I merely wanted him dead, why would I go through so much trouble? Now that I've subdued Jiu Xiu, how could I allow all my effort to go to waste out of fear of the ancient monster clan's expert? Jian Wushuang's eyes glinted with a sharp glare as he thought about the matter. Whiz! Jian Wushuang, who had been traversing quickly, suddenly stopped in his tracks. His slaughter body had suddenly appeared. He passed his interspatial ring, along with many other treasures, to the slaughter body. Have you really made up your mind, Jian Wushuang? Gu King's voice rang in his head again. Right? Nodded Jian Wushuang heavily. I'll let my slaughter body carry my treasures, including the mountain river map, into hiding so that my life will be secure. Then, my world body will bring my blood mountain sword and blood-killing plate armor to engage the ancient monster clan. I have many tricks up my sleeve, and now that Jiu Xiu is in my hands, I can contend with and even discuss terms with the ancient monster clan. Even if we end up trying to kill each other, they cannot kill my world body. Also, even if my world body is somehow destroyed by the ancient monster clan, I'll just be losing the blood mountain sword and the blood-killing plate armor. I won't be dying there. I can still try to get my items back if I lose them, but if I lose this chance to interrogate Jiu Xiu, I may never get another shot at him. My father did not hesitate when he made the irreversible decision to become a reincarnator, all because he wanted to have a chance of meeting my mother again, even though it was only a slight one. Today, I have the rare chance of knowing where my mother is, and it's definitely a risk worth taking. Jian Wushuang spoke in a low tone, his expression serious. He had already made up his mind. In this case, go for it. With your blood-killing plate armor and my restorative power, even a celestial master would not find it easy to kill you, said Gu King solemnly. Jian Wushuang could not control his emotions and gave off a laugh. His slaughter body immediately began hiding in a secluded spot, while his world body carried the Blood Mountain sword, along with Jiu Xiu, who was suppressed in it, to continue traversing forward. Whilst doing so, he kept increasing the suffering and pressure on Jiuxiu. He was now in a contest with Jiuxiu to see who could hang on for a longer time. Either Jiuxiu would give up trying to withstand the suffering of being restricted within the Sword Mountain and tell Jian Wushuang everything he wanted to know, or Jian Wushuang would be found by the expert from the ancient monster clan and be destroyed. Whoever lasted longer would emerge as the victor. After Jian Wushuang had finished making preparations for his risky venture, the expert from the ancient monster clan was already drawing near. Soon, I'm already close. Celestial Master Winter Whistle from the ancient monster clan appeared as a flash of lightning as he zoomed through the void, his gaze fixed in front. He could sense that the mysterious crack on Jiuxiu's body was somewhere in the distance. 1 more hour, I can catch up with him by 1 hour at most. 9 Sword, I hope you can hold on for another hour, muttered the Celestial Master. Just at this moment, Celestial Master Winter Whistle, a message suddenly came to him. The Celestial Master's expression changed and he took out a token immediately. Empyrean Patriarch? Asked Celestial Master Winter Whistle, feeling surprised. He had seen Empyrean Patriarch once before personally, but they were not really acquainted with one another. He possessed the message token because Empyrean Patriarch had some issues with the ancient monster clan in the past. Even so, Celestial Master Winter Whistle knew about the bounty of 20 Chaos Gems that he had placed on Jian Wushuang. He had already known what he wanted. Empyrean Patriarch, are you here for that Jian Wushuang? Celestial Master Winter Whistle transmitted his reply. Yes, replied Empyrean Patriarch. He killed my son, and naturally, I have to kill him to take revenge for my son. I heard that you're after him as well, and unless I'm mistaken, you've already locked on to his position, right? Indeed I am, nodded Celestial Master Winter Whistle. Tell me his current location. I want to cut that young fool into pieces, said Empyrean Patriarch coldly. I can tell you his position, but I hope that you can assure the safety of Tao Master 9 Sword when you strike, Empyrean Patriarch, replied Celestial Master Winter Whistle. Oh, he's not dead yet? Said Empyrean Patriarch as he laughed nonchalantly, but he then nodded and continued, I promise you. That's good. His current location is. Celestial Master Winter Whistle showed Empyrean Patriarch where Jian Wushuang currently was. Empyrean Patriarch hurried to the location with a few experts. It just happens that the young fool is fleeing toward my current spot. If everything goes as expected, we will meet soon, Empyrean Patriarch said in a clear voice. Empyrean Patriarch, please remember to ensure that Tao Master 9 Sword will be safe, Celestial Master Winter Whistle kept reminding. Under the infinite void was a vast plain. Jian Wushuang, who was wearing a blood-red long robe and carrying a long sword on his back, was traversing forward at great speed. I've lost exactly 4 hours since subduing Jiuxiu. I believe the expert from the ancient monster clan is nearby now, muttered Jian Wushuang. When he lifted his head, however, he could clearly see a headstrong old man with neat, short hair and a slender face standing at the peak of a hill at the far end of his view. The elder was as sharp as an eagle and he looked directly toward Jian Wushuang, his sight piercing through the void. Just his gaze alone made Jian Wushuang feel fearful without being aware of it. He had stopped abruptly and looked at the elder too. Empyrean Patriarch. An angry voice rang out, and it sounded like the endless rumbling of thunder bursting forth from the endless void, passing to Jian Wushuang's ears at the same time. Empyrean Patriarch? Thought Jian Wushuang as he got a huge shock. Chapter 1041. Bash My Way Through. Chapter 1041. Bash my way through. The ancient monster clan is already exerting enormous pressure on me by itself. Now even Empyrean Patriarch is here. Things are turning bad really quickly. Jian Wushuang, I've finally found you. Empyrean Patriarch fixed his gaze on Jian Wushuang before making his move. Even though there was a considerable distance between them, Empyrean Patriarch's huge hand came stretching toward Jian Wushuang, continuously expanding as it passed through the void. It came smashing toward Jian Wushuang, finally growing to the height of a huge mountain. Jian Wushuang steeled himself and decided to meet the attack head-on with his sword. Heaven's Bane. Immense ancient god power gushed into his arms in an instant, allowing Jian Wushuang to completely unleash the power of the three sword principles he created. Break through the attack. His move was extremely powerful and strong, and it smashed directly into the huge mountain. Bang! There was a huge sound and large amounts of power began to disperse into the surrounding at an insane speed, as if a lot of rocks were rolling off from the huge mountain. Jian Wushuang grunted softly before stumbling a few steps back. He's too strong. Jian Wushuang looked a little dumbstruck. Empyrean Patriarch had just casually struck at him, and the power of his blow was already buffered by the great distance between them, but yet, Jian Wushuang's swordsmanship had been completely outclassed and he was even knocked back. Such power! You really deserve your fearsome reputation, Empyrean Patriarch. Your strength is indeed formidable. Jian Wushuang gushed. Humph, yours is not too bad as well. You managed to withstand my attack. It's no wonder that you managed to kill my son. Today, however, I will have my revenge, roared Empyrean Patriarch. Revenge? Let's see if you have the capability to do that, growled Jian Wushuang. The next instant, however, he turned abruptly and dashed toward the void at his side. Evidently, he wanted to escape. Are you trying to escape? Empyrean Patriarch sneered. Do you think you'll be able to do that? The look on Jian Wushuang's face changed as he saw 10 figures suddenly appearing at the void before him. What? He exclaimed. The figures stood side by side, all of them giving off an aura of dominance. There was exactly 3 peak rank 3 Dao Masters amongst them, while the other 7 were close to achieving that status. They were the 10 protectors of Empyrean Patriarch. At this moment, they stood before Jian Wushuang, blocking his retreat. Empyrean Patriarch is before me, while the expert of the ancient monster clan is close behind. Furthermore, my only escape route is blocked by these 10 people, said Jian Wushuang as his expression turned grim. Very quickly, however, there was a look of craziness in his eyes. The only remaining option left is for me to bash my way through. I don't have a choice. The killing intent in Jian Wushuang multiplied quickly, as did the might of the Blood Mountain sword in his hand. He easily navigated his way through the void in a phantom-like manner, and he did not slow down in the least bit even though he knew that 10 powerful Dao Masters were in his way. He's got guts. He's trying to force his way through us. Humph, he's overconfident. Since he's courting death, let's fulfill his wish. Each of the 10 Dao Masters wore a chilling look. Swish, 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 swish. All of them struck simultaneously, just as Jian Wushuang was drawing near. They had joined forces to take Jian Wushuang down. All of them were extremely powerful Dao Masters, and there were even 3 that possessed peak rank 3 strength. All of the attacks made were either quick and violent, berserk in nature, or lightning fast. Jian Wushuang looked unhinged himself as he rapidly struck out with the Blood Mountain sword. Swoosh, 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 swoosh. Ray after ray of sword light flew toward the protectors. Jian Wushuang had unleashed the entire might of the Aurora sword principle as well as his own swordsmanship. Sounds of weapons clashing rang out, and even though Jian Wushuang had used his full repertoire of skills, he only managed to block 6 of them. The other 4 hit him without any buffer, but luckily his defensive capabilities were so strong that they defied the natural order. As a result, not much damage was done and he only felt his blood churning. The kid's defense is indeed strong. So what? If the 10 of us join forces, he'll still be dead by the end of the day. Kill him. The killing intent of the 10 Dao Masters multiplied and in an instant, wave after wave of fearsome attacks came raining down upon Jian Wushuang again. Wait, my swordsmanship is still too slow. I have to be quicker so that I can block all of their attacks at the same time. Jian Wushuang was looking pale, but at this moment, he was feeling completely calm. He was in a state of unprecedented calmness and concentration. It was what made Jian Wushuang unique. The tougher the situation, the clearer his thoughts became. His eyes suddenly gleamed as he saw the attacks coming. "Get lost, all of you!" Buzz. He unleashed his fearsome swordsmanship. It looked as if he had just made one blow with his sword, but in reality, 10 sword lights had been released in an instant. Not only were they traveling at amazing speed, but each of them were also terribly powerful. They seemed to smash right into the Dao Master's attack simultaneously, and their power was completely unleashed. Suddenly, the 10 Dao Masters were knocked back. Jian Wushuang took the opportunity to sneak his way through their ranks. Just like this, he managed to slip out easily from their encirclement. He immediately began to flee at an astounding speed the moment he shook free of their attacks. The 10 Dao Masters, who took a while to steady themselves, were all feeling surprisingly excitable at having witnessed his escape. How was that possible? How could his swordsmanship be so quick? It happened so fast that even though he made 10 moves in one shot, it gave one the feeling that he only made one. 3 of us are at peak rank 3 while the rest are advanced rank 3 Dao Masters. We couldn't stop him even after joining forces? The Dao Masters were dumbstruck. Empyrean Patriarch, who had not taken part in the attack and was standing on the mountain, felt extremely surprised too. He thought that there was no way Jian Wushuang could have escaped the combined might of his 10 protectors, and he did not expect his hated enemy to bash his way through their barricade. He started to feel restless. "A bunch of trash," he shouted at the Dao Masters. In the next instant, his figure had turned into a pitch-black flowing light as it chased after Jian Wushuang with terrifying speed. He was the swiftest member of the Sky-Devouring clan, and he was known as the Sky-Devouring Bat. As such, he was most confident about his speed. He was so much faster than Jian Wushuang that he soon appeared close behind his enemy, even though Jian Wushuang had a huge head start. Empyrean Patriarch is extremely fast. I've achieved a breakthrough in my Aurora Sword principle and made it reach the universe level, so my speed has increased greatly. Even so, the disparity between his speed and mine is very obvious, Jian Wushuang thought. He had also noticed Empyrean Patriarch's appearance. Chapter 1042, Fleeing for My Life. Chapter 1042, Fleeing for My Life. A moment ago, Jian Wushuang had achieved a breakthrough in his Aurora Sword principle. It was the second sword principle that he created. His sword principles had kept improving during his 50 years in the Firmament territory after leaving the Rock Demon clan. His Coalescence sword principle had achieved the universe level, while his Aurora sword principle was close to achieving that level. Jian Wushuang had remained extremely calm when faced with the encirclement of the 10 Dao Masters earlier on, but his hidden potential had been unleashed, resulting in his breakthrough in the Aurora sword principle. He managed to block all of the 10 Dao Masters' attacks and even knock them back due to this sudden increase in speed of his swordsmanship. Since all 3 of my sword principles have reached the universe level, my overall strength must have increased again. I'm currently still no match for a celestial master, but I must be close, Jian Wushuang thought to himself. Jian Wushuang, why are you still thinking about such things now? You should be coming up with a plan to shake off Empyrean Patriarch. He is a sky-devouring bat at the Holy Master level and much quicker than you. Furthermore, he has not shown his original form. Once he does, his speed will surely be increased by many times. Gu Qing's voice rang out again. Hearing this, Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. He had also noticed that the distance between Empyrean Patriarch and himself was drawing ever nearer. He estimated that Empyrean Patriarch would be able to catch up with him after a little while more. I don't have a choice. I can only go all in and hope for the best, Jian Wushuang thought. He clasped his hands together and said, Gu Qing, lend me all your strength. Fine, Gu Qing nodded. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes once again. Dragon Blood Secret Skill. Buzz. In an instant, the vast amounts of spiritual power in Jian Wushuang's body began to ignite. Layers of blood-red vapor were emitted from his body. With spiritual power raging in his body, his speed had increased tenfold all of an instant. Whoosh! He seemed to have completely transformed into a ray of blood-red light as he zoomed across the void, covering thousands of kilometers in an instant. Emperor Patriarch, who was close behind and catching up to Jian Wushuang, was shocked upon seeing the change in speed of his enemy. What's going on? How did that brat's speed increase by so much all of a sudden? It felt as though it increased more than tenfold in an instant. Jian Wushuang had already surprised Emperor Patriarch with his speed earlier on, but now, with the sudden huge increase, his speed had already exceeded that of a rank 3 Dao Master. Even an ordinary Celestial Master would be hard-pressed to match his current speed. What secret skill did he use? Emperor Patriarch thought, frowning. He deduced that Jian Wushuang must have used some special secret skill to achieve the huge sudden increase in speed. Even though there was no lack of secret skills in the green fire world that could increase one's speed quickly, they grew less effective once the user's strength improved. A secret skill sold in the Divine Monster territory not long ago was a good example. It could increase a rank 3 Dao Master's speed by 2 times, but only 30% of a Celestial Master's speed. Even so, it was treated like treasure and sought after by many experts. 2 Celestial Masters even personally appeared at the auction to compete with one another for ownership of the skill. Now, however, Jian Wushuang's secret skill could increase his speed by 10 times. What did this mean? Emperor Patriarch thought. Humph, he grunted. He then unleashed one of his secret skills as well, resulting in him being able to move at maximum speed. Even so, he could only remain far behind Jian Wushuang and was unable to close up the distance between them. Humph, even though his secret skill is effective, he surely has to pay a high price for using it. I don't believe that the brat can keep this up for long, Emperor Patriarch muttered, his gaze chilling. Jian Wushuang's speed did not diminish in the least bit. Jian Wushuang, you have many tricks up your sleeve. It's the first time I saw you use this secret skill. I didn't expect that your speed could increase so greatly by burning off the spiritual power in you. Such a secret skill is rarely seen even in the eternal chaotic world, Gu King said, his laughter ringing in Jian Wushuang's mind. It's a secret skill passed on to me by my teacher. Even though I have to pay a steep price for using it, it's definitely most useful when fleeing, replied Jian Wushuang. Your teacher is indeed formidable. He has so many tactics and treats you extremely well. He gave you so many wonderful things, said Gu King, laughing. I still remember his kindness and good deeds toward me. However, he told me that he could only give me these things, and that if I still had any wishes to fulfill, I had to pay my own price for them, Jian Wushuang replied. But that's normal. A teacher that really cares for his disciple will never overly pamper him or her. It's more than enough for him to have given you these treasures, Gu King said. Let's leave that aside for now. Gu King, I'm expending a lot of my spiritual power. Can you help me regenerate quickly enough? Asked Jian Wushuang. I can't help you completely recover if you expend your spiritual power too quickly, even if I gave it my all. I could, however, help you to continue using it for a much longer time. Let's say if you can maintain usage of the secret skill for 1 day by yourself. I could extend that to 3 days at least, replied Gu King solemnly. That's more than enough, Jian Wushuang said as he smiled. At the same time, he fished out a few elixirs. He got them from the experts he killed, and they could help him recover his spiritual power. Even though he had left most of his treasures with his slaughter body, he retained a few of them on his world body. Most of them were meant for treating injuries, and 2 of them were elixirs that could help him recover half of his spiritual power instantly. They were left to him by Dao Yuanzi. With these elixirs and Gu King's aid, he believed he could maintain the amount of spiritual power burned by using the first level of Dragon Blood secret skill for a few days and possibly even much longer. Furthermore, he believed that Jiao Xiao could not possibly continue to withstand the restrictions for more than a few days. 2 figures, one chasing after the other, had traversed across thousands of kilometers of space in only an instant. Emperor Patriarch had originally believed that Jian Wushuang could not have withstood the usage of his secret skill for long, but as time passed, 7 minutes, 15 minutes, 1 hour, 2 hours. Jian Wushuang did not seem to be slowing down even after 4 hours. Instead, Empyrean Patriarch had to start consuming elixirs to maintain usage of his own secret skill. He had also used up much of his spiritual power. Both of them had traversed across great distances during these 4 hours, passing by many districts of different populations and cities. Many experts were shocked by the wild chase. Chapter 1043, Great Commotion. Chapter 1043, Great Commotion. The pursuit caused quite a commotion despite having gone on for only 4 hours. It was a great commotion, in fact. It rippled through the divine monster territory and even the Samsara continent. I've repeatedly warned Jian Wushuang to be careful and keep a low profile, but it's like he's deliberately going around and causing trouble. To think that he'd once again suppress Dao Master Jian of the ancient demon clan. Elder Ding Mo of the inner hall of the Samsara temple said with admiration, shaking his head after hearing the news. Jian Wushuang sure has guts. He killed Patriarch of Empyrean Glory's son and then suppressed Dao Master Jian of the ancient demon clan. Patriarch of Empyrean Glory is now going after him, and the ancient demon clan certainly won't let him off either. Will he be able to survive this time? Dreamless Dao Master followed suit in sighing. Jian Wushuang, Dragon Wing Governor, felt worried for Jian Wushuang after hearing the news. Patriarch of Empyrean Glory alone is a formidable enemy, but now he has provoked the ancient demon clan as well. So I hope that God will bless him. As high-level experts of the Samsara temple, Ding Mo and Dreamless Dao Master naturally had gotten the news at once. Dragon Wing Governor, being a man with great connections, also learned of the news as soon as they did. The news traveled to the various influences, clans, and experts in the Samsara continent at the same time. The 4 great clans of the Samsara continent, the Blood Azura clan. The Blood Azura clan was the only one out of the numerous clans in the Samsara continent that could rival the ancient demon clan. These 2 clans were much stronger than the other 2 top clans. The ancient demon clan had yet to receive public recognition despite being, barely, considered the best population of the Samsara continent. That was due to the existence of the Blood Azura clan. Just then, inside the grounds of the Blood Azura clan, countless pavilions covered every nook of a mountain that stood tall within an ancient forest that appeared endless at a glance. There was a beautiful girl dressed in black standing on the top floor of a pavilion that was so tall that it pierced the clouds. Though the girl appeared delicate, her aura was strong enough to make ordinary Dao Masters to quake in fear. The pavilion, located on the peak of the mountain, was most certainly the most important building of the clan. Most of the internal information that the clan gathered over its long lifespan was kept here. Naturally, this building was heavily guarded. Even among the whole Blood Azura clan, no more than 10 clan members were qualified to enter this building. Only 3 had access to the top floor, and the black-robed girl was one of them. The girl stood impassively on the top floor of the pavilion, overlooking everything below. She was deep in thought, with a hint of melancholy in her gaze. 2 figures flitted across the void next to the pavilion. They chatted as they traveled through the void. The girl had intended to ignore them, but when she heard their conversation, her face changed. "You've heard the news, I suppose? That infamous Patriarch of Empyrean Glory is now hunting down Jian Wushuang?" The other chuckled. "How could I not know this big news? I even heard that Jian Wushuang suppressed Dao Master Jian of the ancient demon clan, angering the clan so much that they're also going after him. Jian Wushuang sure is audacious." "Humph. Audacious? I think he's digging his own grave. With Patriarch of Empyrean Glory and the ancient demon clan teaming up, I don't believe he'll be able to escape." The ones talking were Dao Masters of the Blood Azura clan. They were fairly famous in the Samsara continent and well-connected to boot. The great commotion and frantic pursuit sent such shockwaves through the entire divine demon territory and Samsara continent that they were naturally aware of it. They were happily chatting when they heard a sudden whooshing sound and the girl in black appeared in front of them. They were taken aback at the sight of the girl, and then quickly bowed to her. "Paying our respects to you, Celestial Emperor." The Dao Masters looked exceptionally deferential. "Which Jian Wushuang are you referring to?" The girl asked, sounding a little impatient. Her question caught them by surprise, but one of them, an old man with silver hair, immediately replied, "We're not too clear ourselves about Jian Wushuang's background. All we know is that he has terrifying strong battle strength despite being in the Eternal Realm. He's strong enough to kill even Dao Masters in the peak of rank 3. Moreover, it's said that he's from the ancient world and very young to boot. It's only been 2,000 years since his birth." Oh! The girl's eyes gleamed. He's from the ancient world and it's only been 2,000 years since his birth? Yet he's exceptionally strong? Is it him? The girl muttered to herself. Even so, the answer was firm in her heart. The green fire world was so large after all. The ancient world had gone through countless cycles of maturity and replacement. There would be countless men who were called Jian Wushuang. It wouldn't be surprising to see two people with the same name and a similar cultivation age. Uncertain as she was, she still decided to go there and figure it out. Mount Xiong. Let's go. The moment the girl decided to set out on her journey, silhouettes appeared behind her with whooshing sounds one after another. There were no less than 10 shadows, all of them emanating decently strong auras. The one standing closest to the girl was especially powerful. It was an apathetic, bear-like man with an incomparably tall and sturdy stature. His aura evidently put him above the level of Dao Masters. He was a genuine celestial master. I hope it's him. The girl clasped her hands tightly, a hint of expectation peeking through her pupils. The apathetic, bear-like man and the group of Dao Masters followed after her. They soon made their way out of the Blood Azura clan. Over in the divine demon territory, above the vast void. Swoosh! A blood-like flowing light streaked across the void. Then, a black silhouette followed, flitting across the void just as quickly. Jian Wushuang and Patriarch of Empyrean Glory were still engaged in a frantic pursuit. It had been exactly 4 hours since the pursuit began. That brat! How can it be? Patriarch of Empyrean Glory focused on Jian Wushuang in front of him, looking displeased. He had assumed that the secret skill that gave Jian Wushuang such speed and explosive acceleration would deplete the latter's energy and greatly diminish his endurance. Now, he felt like he had been slapped on the face. Jian Wushuang was still not showing signs of stopping after 4 hours and his aura remained incomparably strong. Chapter 1044, Unleashing Full Speed. Chapter 1044, Unleashing Full Speed. What's wrong, Patriarch of Empyrean Glory? Why haven't you overtaken him yet? Even Celestial Master Dong Ming of the ancient demon clan had to contact him. I underestimated him. I didn't think he'd be this good at running. He's faster than ordinary Celestial Masters, Patriarch of Empyrean Glory replied. I see. No wonder I'm increasingly falling behind Jian in my perception despite using all my strength. Dong Ming felt relieved. Rest assured. He has some extraordinary tricks up his sleeve, but he's dreaming if he thinks he can outrun me. Patriarch of Empyrean Glory snorted. Secret black patterns emerged all over his skin, engulfing him. These patterns soon covered his entire body. With a flick of his sleeve, a pair of immense black wings burst forth from these patterns. Even Patriarch of Empyrean Glory's body began to experience changes and he turned into a large bat in a flash. The real form of both Empyrean Patriarch and Di Yen was Sky-Devouring Bat. Emperor of Flames could return to his original form with a secret skill, but Patriarch of Empyrean Glory needed only to trigger his bloodline power to achieve the same. Once he returned to his original self, his speed would increase sharply. Swoosh! An ear-piercing neighing sound resounded in the air. Patriarch of Empyrean Glory's large black wings abruptly clapped and his body turned into a black mirage in a violent manner. He was now several times faster than before. When Jian Wushuang used the first Dragon Blood secret skill, his speed was comparable to Patriarch of Empyrean Glory's. That was why, even after the latter had pursued him for 4 hours, their distance didn't diminish at all. But now, Patriarch of Empyrean Glory was visibly closing in onto Jian Wushuang. Suddenly, Gu Qing's voice resounded. Jian Wushuang. Sky-Devouring Bat? Jian Wushuang's expression abruptly changed after noticing that Patriarch of Empyrean Glory was increasingly close behind. The sky-devouring bat has the advantage in terms of speed. Patriarch of Empyrean Glory is also much stronger than his son. He relies solely on his bloodline power to maintain his true form. If his speed explodes, he'll be so much faster than his son. He'll catch up to you in no time if this continues, Gu King said in a gloomy voice. Looks like I have no other choice. Jian Wushuang's eyes gleamed, and in the next moment, his already raging spiritual power burned even more intensely. Earlier, the burning rate of his spiritual power was still within acceptable limits. Coupled with Gu King's recovering capability and elixirs that heal spiritual powers, he would be able to endure for a very long time. His spiritual power now burned at a frantic speed. This was the second level of his Dragon Blood secret skill. Both levels required him to pay the price of burning his spiritual power, but the speed that the second level provided was tenfold that of the first level. Whoosh! Jian Wushuang streaked across the void instantly. The naked eye wouldn't be able to capture even his shadow. The killing intent in Patriarch of Empyrean Glory's eyes surged dangerously high. He was so close to catching up to Jian Wushuang, but all of a sudden, Jian Wushuang's speed increased sharply, this time about tenfold. In a second, their distance was widened until they were several thousand miles apart. To make things worse, the distance was still widening at a terrifying speed. In no time at all, Jian Wushuang had completely disappeared from his sight. Impossible! Patriarch of Empyrean Glory was truly startled this time. He had been shocked when Jian Wushuang's speed increased tenfold, but now there was another tenfold increase. What kind of development was this? Hundredfold increase. There was a whooping hundredfold increase in his speed. What a formidable secret skill. Patriarch of Empyrean Glory immediately called for Celestial Master Dong Ming. Hurry up and tell me the brat's location. Jian Wushuang had disappeared from his sight with such a simple show of tricks. Without Dong Ming showing him in the right direction, he would have been completely lost. What happened? Don't tell me that Jian Wushuang shook you off? Dong Ming asked doubtfully. Stop with the questions. Just tell me his location. The eyes of Patriarch of Empyrean Glory were alarmingly red. He was unwilling to admit the truth. I am a sky-devouring bat at the Holy Master level. Although I exerted myself in the state of my original form, I still lost track of an eternal realm brat. Everyone in the Samsara continent would be laughing their heads off if they found it out. Dong Ming asked no further and faithfully relayed Jian Wushuang's location. I refuse to believe he can use his incredible secret skill which boosts up his speed greatly without paying a steep price. Patriarch of Empyrean Glory's killing intent was so strong that it was overflowing. Under Dong Ming's guidance, he continued to chase after Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang successfully threw Patriarch of Empyrean Glory off his trail, but he knew this situation wouldn't last for long. The price for invoking the second level of Dragon Blood secret skill was much steeper than the price for the first. He wouldn't be able to soldier on for much longer. Jian Wushuang, your spiritual power is burning too quickly for my recovering capability to catch up, Gu King said in a low voice. I know. Jian Wushuang nodded with a grim expression. Even with Gu King's help, I could at most exert the second level of Dragon Blood secret skill for an hour. 1 hour was sufficient in a close-quarters combat. Yet it was pathetically short for when he needed to run. His spiritual power would be thoroughly exhausted in an hour and he would then lose all ability to fight back. So much time has passed but Jiu Xiu is still hanging on. Jian Wushuang lamented. His initial plan was to buy himself time to use the restriction methods of the Sword Mountain to torment Jiu Xiu and get the latter to reveal his mother's whereabouts. Once he got the outcome he wanted, he would behead Jiu Xiu and escape using the Dragon Blood secret skill. Once Jiu Xiu lost the mysterious crack for guidance, he could stand a good chance to escape successfully. Who would have thought Jiu Xiu would have such exceptional endurance? Jiu Xiu has a strong consciousness, perhaps due to his reincarnation, Gu King said solemnly. Jian Wushuang's expression shifted. Strong consciousness. He had fully unleashed the might of his sheer shadow sword, which contained a strong consciousness attack on Jiao Xiu earlier. However, Jiao Xiu remained unaffected, clearly showed that he had exceptional consciousness. The restriction methods of the Sword Mountain were terrifying, but most were targeted at the consciousness, where they would cause a violent pain in the target's mind. Ordinary Dao masters would have collapsed under such torment, but Jiao Xiu had continued to soldier on. Chapter 1045, Black-Robed Girl. Chapter 1045, Black-Robed Girl. Since Xiu Jiao has been enduring for such a long time, there's no way he'd tell me in just an hour. Jian Wushuang's eyes turned cold as his resolution grew firmer. Looks like I have no choice but to kill him. Kill him? Don't you want to know where your mother is? Gu King asked. I'd put up a fight if I know I stand even the slightest chance, but it's hopeless now, Jian Wushuang replied solemnly. I'm not a hotspur. I won't blindly pursue a goal even knowing it's hopeless. The mysterious pattern on Jiao Xiu's skin would be gone after his death. I'm confident I can manage to escape within this hour. Once he made up his mind, he immediately set out to kill Jiao Xiu. Just then, Jian Wushuang, hurry up and look what's in front of you, Gu King cried. Jian Wushuang looked up and saw a black dot appearing at the end of his line of sight. The black dot magnified rapidly and appeared before him instantly. It was a sturdy, bear-like, and apathetic man. Oh no! Jian Wushuang's pupils shrunk the moment he saw the apathetic man. This aura belongs to a holy master. Is he from the ancient demon clan? His expression was grim. He had been ready to take Jiao Xiu out, but now a celestial master showed up out of nowhere. Moreover, this celestial master was evidently targeting him. He was either from the ancient demon clan or an expert that they invited. This is troublesome. Jian Wushuang's eyes turned cold. The Blood Mountain sword was already in his hand. Yet unexpectedly. Jian Wushuang was stunned. He realized that though the bear-like, apathetic man was eyeing him, there was no killing intent in the latter's eyes. The man was already in front of Jian Wushuang but made no move to attack him. Instead, he bypassed Jian Wushuang and stopped behind him. He then lifted his head and targeted his sharp gaze at Patriarch of Empyrean Glory, who was taking his sweet time in catching up to Jian Wushuang. Then the man made his move. Boom! The man had merely thrown a simple punch, but it was enough to set off an explosion that detonated all of the space around them. Soon an immense black hole emerged which covered the range of thousands of miles out of thin air. The spiral-shaped black hole extended outward in a perfectly straight line. In the center of that spatial black hole was a thick, solid arm with its hand tightly clenched. It was an incredibly arrogant and unyielding fist. This Patriarch of Empyrean Glory's expression changed when he saw the punch flying at him. He responded by clapping his large wings, producing a powerful storm with a concentrated force. The storm effortlessly shattered the fist and spatial black hole. Though he managed to crush the attacks, Patriarch of Empyrean Glory was forced to stop. Who are you? How dare you stop me? He asked, his voice carrying traces of alarm. The apathetic man remained expressionless as he responded emotionlessly, I'm here to stop you on my master's order. Master? Patriarch of Empyrean Glory was stunned. Once the apathetic man made his move, he had shown that he was a genuine celestial master. What kind of a person will be strong enough to have a celestial master call his master? Thought Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang had continued to widen his distance from Patriarch of Empyrean Glory after the apathetic man bypassed him. In the end, he stopped running and turned around in time to see the man stopping Patriarch of Empyrean Glory. This man came for me, but he's not here to kill me, but to help me? He was stunned. Reinforcement. Jian Wushuang never dreamed that he would have reinforcements. After all, he hadn't made many friends in the Samsara continent. He only knew Dragon Wing Governor and Dreamless Dao Master, and he was absolutely certain that these two would have no way of getting him reinforcements on the level of a holy master. But the apathetic man's action and words. Master? Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. Who would be the master of this strong and apathetic man? Patriarch of Empyrean Glory was so mad, to boot. I don't care who your master is. This brat killed my son, and for that, I must take his life today. Get out of my way. Otherwise, Patriarch of Empyrean Glory roared. Before he could finish his sentence, a cold voice came drifting from afar reached his ears. Otherwise? Otherwise what? Both Jian Wushuang and Patriarch of Empyrean Glory immediately turned toward the source of the voice. They saw dozens of black dots appearing in their vision. These dots rapidly enlarged, soon turning into figures that stood in the void. The group of people emanated dangerously strong auras that indicated that they were in the peak of rank 3 level. Their leader was unexpectedly a stunning, delicate-looking girl in black. Despite her frail appearance, the group of Dao masters stood deferentially behind her. Even the apathetic man who made the first move bowed respectfully to her and cried, "Master!" Patriarch of Empyrean Glory's pupils shrank in shock. On the other hand, Jian Wushuang was dumbfounded. He had never felt this stupefied in his life. He kept his gaze fixed on the black-robed girl. The girl also stared at him, her eyes reflecting the fierce joy. Jian Wushuang couldn't help crying out, "Fourth sister?" His emotions began surging wildly. Fourth sister. Few people in this world would merit such an intimate manner of addressing from Jian Wushuang. In fact, there were only 3, the 3 people that he swore to be good siblings with when he was still a weakling in the ancient world. There were 4 of them in total. The oldest was Wang Yuan. The second was Yang Zishuan. The third was Jian Wushuang himself. For Su Rou. The young and shy girl whose charm drew everyone to dote on her was also the earliest to leave the ancient world. He wasn't there when she left, hearing about her departure from Wang Yuan and Yang Zishuan later. He didn't know where she went, only that she was leaving with a mysterious expert. When he arrived in the Green Fire world, he guessed that she was also here somewhere. But he never once thought that it would be here, in the Samsara continent, that he would meet Fourth Sister again, or that she would now be so different. The young and shy girl back then now possessed a fearsome aura. The dozens of experts that surrounded and protected her also showed her status as an expert. Su Rou was similarly surprised, but she was able to suppress her emotions. Her eyes turned a little colder as she turned to look at Patriarch of Empyrean Glory. She once again spoke in that icy cold voice of hers. Patriarch of Empyrean Glory, if you dare touch even a strand of hair on his head while I'm around, I'll pluck out all the fur on your bat body. Chapter 1046, Azura Lord. Chapter 1046, Azura Lord. Patriarch of Empyrean Glory, if you dare touch even a strand of hair on his head while I'm around, I'll pluck out all the fur on your bat body. Su Rou's every word rang loudly inside Patriarch of Empyrean Glory's ears. His expression immediately darkened. Are you from the Blood Azura clan? He swept his gaze through the experts behind Su Rou before finally settling on her. If I'm not mistaken, you're Azura Lord of the Azuras of the Blood Azura clan, aren't you? Holy Emperor of the Azuras? Jian Wushuang looked at Su Rou in surprise. He had read the information on the 4 great clans and had some knowledge of the Blood Azura clan. He knew Azura Lord held the highest position in the Blood Azura clan. The position typically belonged to the clansman with the densest awakened bloodline. It was a position that was basically equivalent to the emperor of the entire clan. It was similar to the position of imperial god in the ancient god clan. Jian Wushuang was amazed. In just a short 2,000 years, Fourth Sister has become Azura Lord of the Blood Azura clan. Your clan might be strong, but I'm not an easy opponent either. Azura Lord, have you really resolved to provoke me just for this brat? Patriarch of Empyrean Glory snorted. Considering his disregard for the law and morality, as well as his arrogant character, he would not have bothered talking were it not for his misgivings about his new opponent. Obviously he was apprehensive about Su Rou, or more accurately, her clan. After all, her clan was one of the 4 great clans. He had no choice but to feel reservations about fighting them. I've made myself very clear. I won't allow anyone to touch even a strand of his hair as long as I'm around. Su Ro's voice was as cold as ever. She waved her fair hand as she started speaking, prompting the experts behind her to move forward. In a split second, they gathered around the apathetic man to form a blockade around Patriarch of Empyrean Glory. The dozens of peak of rank 3 experts, coupled with a Celestial Master expert, formed a fearsome battle formation that was strong enough to stop Patriarch of Empyrean Glory. More importantly, Patriarch of Empyrean Glory noticed that all the experts were expressionless as if they felt no emotion, so much so that they resembled puppet fighters. I heard that as a rising star within the Blood Azura clan, Azura Lord has the densest bloodline in the clan's history. Moreover, she has awakened the Eye of Azura that allows her to control many experts and have them vow their loyalty to her. Even a careless Holy Master expert might find himself under her control. These experts are probably under her control, Patriarch of Empyrean Glory muttered in a gloomy voice. Those under the control of the Eye of Azura would be so obedient and loyal to their master that they would not hesitate if they were ordered to die. Someone like Azura Lord was much more terrifying than the human warriors or puppet fighters. That was why the experts of the Samsara continent would be so afraid of her. It'd be more difficult to kill the brat with Azura Lord around. Patriarch of Empyrean Glory narrowed his eyes and then took out a token. Holy Master Dong Ming. Patriarch of Empyrean Glory, I sense that Zhu Jian has stopped moving. Have you already killed Jian Wushuang and saved him? Celestial Master Dong Ming asked. Not yet. I've encountered some trouble. Azura Lord of the Blood Azura clan has personally come to protect Jian Wushuang. Patriarch of Empyrean Glory replied in a gloomy voice. Holy Emperor of the Azuras? Dong Ming snorted. So the Blood Azura clan has gotten involved as well. Could they be behind this operation that targeted Zhu Jian? That damned Blood Azura clan. Stay there and stall for time. I'll be there as soon as possible. All right. Patriarch of Empyrean Glory nodded. He once again looked at Su Ro after the brief exchange of message. Looks like your clan is determined to interfere in this, he said coldly. I might not be able to do anything to that brat with you around, but Holy Master Dong Ming of the Ancient Demon Clan will be here soon. I'd like to see how you and your men take both of us on. Su Ro's expression changed subtly. She was strong enough to fight the entire Ancient Demon Clan or a Patriarch of Empyrean Glory, all while ensuring Jian Wushuang's safety. However, if Patriarch of Empyrean Glory and the Ancient Demon Clan were to team up, not even she would have the absolute confidence to protect Jian Wushuang. In terms of overall strength, the Ancient Demon Clan was not weaker than her clan. In fact, they might even be slightly stronger. Patriarch of Empyrean Glory was famous for his overwhelming battle strength, powerful and ferocious temper. The Blood Azura clan could not underestimate any of them, but if they were to work together, they would certainly be more powerful than the Blood Azura clan. Well, you still have to wait for Celestial Master Dong Ming to arrive before you can see that scene, don't you? Su Ro snorted. Her figure abruptly turned illusory, and in the next second, she was already standing next to Jian Wushuang. Third brother, Su Ro greeted, joy evident in her voice. You're really amazing, fourth sister. It's only been 2,000 years since we last met, but you've become Azura Lord of the Blood Azura clan. Jian Wushuang was also wearing an expression of surprise and delight. He had already met his two other brothers, Wang Yuan and Yang Zixuan, in the Void Continent. Su Ro spent the longest time apart from them, which was why she was also the one whom he missed and worried about the most. Naturally, he was pleasantly surprised to finally see her again. It's because of my bloodline, Su Ro said with a laugh. Her expression soon turned somber as she continued, let's put that aside for now. The experts of the Ancient Demon Clan will be here soon. With my ability, there's no way I can handle them and Patriarch of Empyrean Glory at the same time. You should run before the experts arrive. I'll help you hold Patriarch of Empyrean Glory up. But there is no need. Jian Wushuang shook his head. Why? Su Ro was confused. There's a secret pattern on my hostage, Dao Master Jian that allows the ancient demon clan to trace my whereabouts. There's nowhere I can flee as long as that secret pattern exists. It's better if I stay here and negotiate with them, Jian Wushuang replied helplessly. But what if? Su Rou frowned. Don't worry. Since I dare to capture Jian, I naturally have prepared for all possible scenarios. Whatever the outcome is, it won't threaten my life. Furthermore, I have your assistance. How can mere Patriarch of Empyrean glory and the ancient demon clan hurt me? Jian Wushuang grinned, looking confident in himself. In fact, he did have a lot of confidence in himself. I have stopped using the Dragon Blood secret skill, and meanwhile, Gu King is also trying his best to heal his spiritual power. I am supposed to make a full recovery by the time the experts from the ancient demon clan arrive. Should anything bad happen, I would immediately kill Jiuxiu and use his Dragon Blood secret skill to escape. I am certain that I have a good chance of making my escape. Moreover, he was also mulling over a certain thought. If I can't get my mother's whereabouts from Jiuxiu, maybe I can get an answer from Holy Master Dongming. Chapter 1047 Bet. Chapter 1047 Bet. Celestial Master Dongming of the ancient demon clan arrived soon. Apart from him, the 10 great protectors serving Patriarch of Empyrean glory and a large crowd of experts curious about the pursuit earlier had shown up as well. The tightly packed crowd that had appeared in the void was mostly made out of Dao Masters. All of their attention was placed on Jian Wushuang. Is he Jian Wushuang? He doesn't look that formidable. Jian Wushuang sure is capable to make Patriarch of Empyrean glory and the ancient demon clan chase after him like this, but his glory ends here. Ends here? I don't think so. Azura Lord of the Blood Azura clan is going to try her best to shield him. One party is Jian Wushuang and Jian Wushuang. The other is Patriarch of Empyrean glory and the ancient demon clan. It'll be very interesting to see what happens. The whispers began resounding. In their sight, Patriarch of Empyrean glory and Dongming were glaring at Azura Lord. Azura Lord, this has nothing to do with your clan. Are you sure you want to get yourselves involved? Dongming asked in a cold voice. Yes, I am. What can you do about it? Su Rou refused to concede in the slightest. Very well. I've long heard that you have the purest bloodline in the history of Blood Azura clan, and I'm sure you're also the strongest of them all. I'd like to learn from you today. Dongming's gaze was cold and clouded. The moment he stopped speaking, a terrifying killing intent was already bursting forth from him. Simultaneously, Patriarch of Empyrean glory beside him was also emanating his powerful aura. Evidently, both of them were prepared to fight. Su Rou's expression turned grave. Jian Wushuang narrowed his eyes. Your experts make a decent battle formation, fourth sister, but it'll only be able to hold Patriarch of Empyrean glory back. It's not realistic to use it to suppress them both. While he shook his head, an idea was already forming in his mind. Patriarch of Empyrean glory. Jian Wushuang opened his mouth to produce a bellowing sound. He took a step forward at the same time. What more do you have to say, brat? Patriarch of Empyrean glory asked coolly. It said that you're so arrogant that you'd never team up with any of the 4 great clans. Yet you decided to work with the ancient demon clan just to kill me. This doesn't seem like your way of doing things. Jian Wushuang chuckled, appearing rather at ease with the current situation. Patriarch of Empyrean glory's expression shifted ever so lightly. It was true that he typically had little to do with the ancient demon clan. Neither did he want to have anything to do with these great clans. But like what Jian Wushuang said, he was teaming up with the ancient demon clan today. Patriarch of Empyrean glory, Jian Wushuang called, glancing at him. How about we make a bet? Make a bet? Patriarch of Empyrean glory's expression changed. Since you're so desperate to kill me, I'll give you a chance to do so. I'll take 3 strikes from you face on. If I die, you would have avenged your son. But if you fail to kill me after 3 strikes, you'll have to write off whatever grudge there is between us two. What do you think? Jian Wushuang asked, smiling. Patriarch of Empyrean glory narrowed his eyes. You'll take 3 strikes from me head-on. He was exceptionally powerful even among the Celestial Masters. Perhaps even an ordinary Celestial Master wouldn't be able to survive after taking 3 strikes from him. Yet Jian Wushuang dared to suggest 3 head-on strikes. Is this brat really that confident in himself? Patriarch of Empyrean Glory muttered to himself. He then sneered and said, "Humph! I'm not a fool. You're already a dead man in this current situation. I only need to put in a little effort to kill you, so why should I bother making a bet with you?" I'm already a dead man? I don't think that's necessarily true. Jian Wushuang chuckled. Don't assume that I'm unaware that the secret pattern on Dao Master Jian is the only reason you and Celestial Master Dong Ming know my whereabouts. If you happen to corner me, I'll just kill Dao Master Jian and make my escape. Without that secret pattern, how would you and Celestial Master Dong Ming track me down? Jian Wushuang appeared utterly confident. The faces of Patriarch of Empyrean Glory and Dong Ming fell. Patriarch of Empyrean Glory had witnessed just how fast Jian Wushuang could run after using his secret skill. He could not catch up even after exerting all of his strength, unleashing his main body, and using his secret skill. Without the secret pattern pointing the way, he would have long lost track of Jian Wushuang. They too would truly be helpless if Jian Wushuang killed Dao Master Jian and played that secret skill of his. Jian Wushuang, if you dare kill Dao Master Jian, I can guarantee that you will find nowhere to stay in the entire Samsara continent. Dong Ming said coolly. Oh, excuse me, I'm not a native of Samsara continent in the first place. I'm from the Void continent. If I can't stay here anymore, no big deal. I'll just return to my home. If you're that good, feel free to hunt me down in the Void continent. But I'd like to see just who is it that would be killed then. Jian Wushuang replied with a sneer. Dong Ming's expression considerably darkened. The Void continent? So you're indeed that top genius who caused all that commotion in the Void continent. He said in a cold voice. Both the Samsara and Void continents were located in the Green Fire world. Being a top expert of the 4 great clans in the Samsara continent, he would naturally have learnt about current events happening in the other continents. Not long ago, he was told a notable battle that took place in the Tang of the East in the Void continent as well as a stunningly brilliant genius. That great genius was in the Eternal Realm. Even though the 2 continents are in the Green Fire world, it's been long agreed that both should mind their own business. If this brat really returns to the Void continent, there's no way for our clan to send too many of our people to hunt him. Moreover, based on the news that I obtained, this brat has exceptional origins in the Void continent. Tang of the East, the #1 nation on the continent, is his supporter. Never mind the fact that we can't send too many of our people, even if our entire clan goes there, we won't be able to do anything to him. I mustn't let him run off to the Void continent. Dong Ming muttered in a gloomy voice. But this brat sure has some good escaping tricks up his sleeve. If he kills Dao Master Jian and we lose that secret pattern, no one would be able to catch up to him. Patriarch of Empyrean Glory's voice turned even colder. We have no choice but to agree to his request. His eyes glinted before he finally stepped forward. Jian Wushuang, I accept your bet. Patriarch of Empyrean Glory's booming voice reverberated in the air. He understood very well that the bet was his only chance of avenging his son. He had essentially no other way of killing Jian Wushuang. Since this was his last chance, of course he would hold firmly onto it. Chapter 1048 3 Moves. Chapter 1048 3 Moves. Oh, you agreed to it? The corner of Jian Wushuang's mouth lifted to form a smile. He felt no surprise whatsoever. He knew Patriarch of Empyrean Glory would agree because that was the only way the latter would be able to kill him. Jian Wushuang didn't wish for 4th sister to risk her life for him. Neither did he want to kill off Jiu Xiu. He still wanted to get secrets out of the latter. Thus, he gave Patriarch of Empyrean Glory such a chance. Third brother. Su Rou glanced at him. Don't worry. I know what I'm doing. Jian Wushuang smiled. He was no fool. Since he dared to demand 3 head-on moves from Patriarch of Empyrean Glory, he would naturally have the means to take it. I've learned 3 sword principles in the Heaven and Earth rank. I'm not weaker than ordinary Celestial Master experts. Moreover, I have the blood-killing plate armor for self-protection. Though it's not enough to beat Patriarch of Empyrean Glory, it wouldn't be easy for him to kill me with just 3 moves, Jian Wushuang muttered. Up above the void, Su Rou, Celestial Master Dong Ming, and the other spectators were already standing on the fringe of the battleground, leaving plenty of space for Jian Wushuang and Patriarch of Empyrean Glory. There was a distance of 1,000 miles between them as they confronted each other. I don't know where you found the confidence to take 3 of my moves head-on, but since you want to dig your own grave, I'll naturally help you. Dim light glinted in Patriarch of Empyrean Glory's pupils. The ruthless aura that he was emanating turned even more ferocious. Show me your best moves. Jian Wushuang gripped his blood mountain sword, his sword essence bursting forth and surging toward the sky. The crowd of spectators couldn't help holding their breath at the sight of the rise of their 2 auras. Suddenly, Patriarch of Empyrean Glory made his move. Brat, this is my first move. His voice shook the sky, the sound echoing through the void. Simultaneously, an explosion of light burst forth from within him. His right palm was immediately scorched black, and a terrifying power that seemed capable of destroying heaven and earth rapidly concentrated on the palm. In the blink of an eye, the condensation of power reached its pinnacle. Concealed bat palm. With a wave of his hand, Patriarch of Empyrean Glory immediately grabbed at Jian Wushuang at a lightning speed. The pitch-black palm continuously enlarged in the void until it was large enough to cover the sky. In a flash, it emerged in front of Jian Wushuang. The boundless pressure crushed the space easily, causing the pupils of the spectators to rapidly shrink. Such incredible might. Is this the strength of a Celestial Master expert? No. Ordinary Holy Master experts wouldn't possess such powerful strength. After all, the one who's making a move is Patriarch of Empyrean Glory. Exclamations resounded one after another. Patriarch of Empyrean Glory was indeed an infamous character. It was precisely his powerful and unyielding might that earned him such fame. Jian Wushuang's expression was exceptionally solemn when he saw the large, pitch-black palm that had crushed the void around it flying toward him. He immediately swung his sword in response. His action carried the power of his 3 sword principles. An incredibly violent sword light descended. This sword light was strong and imbued with yang energy. It carried an aura that seemed capable of wiping out everything before it. It was as if it could rip apart and destroy every scenery. The attack that Jian Wushuang produced was the strongest one in his repertoire, earth-shattering style. Bang! The terrifying sword light and the lightning-fast, pitch-black palm collided. All of a sudden, the world crashed. Sword shadows burst forth inside the void that experienced a frantic collision, easily carving massive space rifts in the void. Crash! It felt as if the entire world was being mercilessly torn apart. Humph! Jian Wushuang's muffled snort rang as he was flung away by the force of the collision. He was forced backward several tens of thousands of miles. Once he regained firm footing, he felt a metallic taste in his mouth and promptly coughed up blood. The gap between of us sure is big. He stared fixedly at Patriarch of Empyrean Glory, secretly shaking his head. He had improved his strength significantly ever since the 3 sword principles that he created reached the Heaven and Earth rank. It was already very close to the strength of an ordinary Holy Master expert. Even so, Patriarch of Empyrean Glory immediately crushed him. Evidently, his opponent was far stronger than ordinary Holy Master experts. On the other side, Patriarch of Empyrean Glory was frowning. Looks like I've really underestimated you, brat. I didn't expect your strength to be so close to that of a Holy Master, he said loudly. His words immediately prompted cries of surprise among the spectators. To think that an Eternal Realm expert would possess battle strength close to that of an ordinary Celestial Master. This fact was inconceivable to them. Humph. Don't feel so proud of yourself. That move isn't my strongest unique kill and I've merely used 70% of my strength. I'll be using my full strength in my second move, Patriarch of Empyrean Glory said with a sneer. Jian Wushuang's pupils shrunk against his will. He was on his guard. When he was done speaking, Patriarch of Empyrean Glory slowly lifted his hand. This time, his palm harbored a power that was formed out of two mingling forces. The two mingling forces, which were evidently different yet were perfectly melded by Patriarch of Empyrean Glory. The airflow that revolved around the periphery of his palm took on two colors, one black and the other a flame-like red. With the combination of the two strengths, his might suddenly increased sharply. Patriarch of Empyrean Glory once again made his move. This time he threw a punch. The punch caused explosions that detonated the void. The fist that was wrapped in two mingling forces of black and red harbored enormous strength. It directly streaked across several tens of thousands of miles to arrive in front of Jian Wushuang. It was frighteningly fast. It was so fast that Jian Wushuang couldn't react in time to withstand it. He could only watch as the clenched fist crossed the layers of bombardment to hit his body. Jian Wushuang felt as if a meteorite had struck him. Even with his blood-killing plate armor diluting nearly 90% of that frightening power, the remaining power still wreaked havoc in his body and caused him to tremble violently. Blood spouted from Jian Wushuang's mouth. Mixed in the blood was traces of his flesh. He was fiercely thrown backward tens of thousands of miles, knocking into countless mountains. In the end, he was embedded inside a large mountain wall. Boom! The mountain immediately fell apart, causing an explosion of crushed rocks. Jian Wushuang once again appeared in the world. Only now, he was battered and bloodied all over. His face was so pale that it was nearly colorless. He was an incredibly sad sight. What a formidable move! Jian Wushuang was still experiencing lingering fears at the thought of the punch that he just took on. Not only was the previous punch exceptionally powerful, but it also harbored a secret strength. That secret strength was like ripples of vibration that pierced Jian Wushuang's defense and directly set off within him. That attack was so strange and mysterious that he didn't immediately notice it. His blood-killing plate armor had no way of warding off or weakening its might as well. Thus, it resulted in his current pathetic state. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.